Donald Trump has nominated Matt Gaetz to be the Attorney General. And oh boy, is this a nuclear bomb on the political establishment. There are neolibs and neocons losing their minds at the prospect of a Matt Gaetz being the Attorney General, top cop in this country. I got to say, this is the greatest thing Donald Trump has done so far. We need to see Matt Gaetz confirmed, and there is a long road ahead of us. But aside from this, Tulsi Gabbard was nominated for Director of National Intelligence. So needless to say, we're having a good day. Now, it is being reported that Matt Gaetz has already resigned from Congress. So I'm just going to say right now, he must get confirmed. This is a dream scenario. If you told me during the election that not only were we going to have RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance, but if you whispered, and Matt Gaetz will be AG, I don't know that I could have voted for Trump more than I already did. I went and I voted for him early. But this is one of the greatest things I've heard. Just the sheer reaction from even many GOP establishment, even Republicans, they're freaking out over this. Now, there is that risk. They may try to obstruct him. So mark my words. Anybody, any Republican who obstructs Matt Gaetz, I am never going to shut up about it, and you will be primaried. We will vote you out. We will do everything we can. So let's just make sure we do what we can to see a Attorney General Matt Gaetz. But there's a lot of complexity here. And I think no matter what happens, even if you try to block it, there's reason to believe Matt Gaetz will still get to be AG. And this is where it gets interesting. But we'll talk about that. We do have a bunch of other news. As I mentioned, Tulsi Gabbard is DNI. The media is calling this Trump's revenge. And then we got a really fascinating story. They're now revealing the reason Kamala Harris didn't go on Rogan is because staffers were upset. That's right. They were like, ma'am, you have the chance to go on the biggest podcast in the world. Would you like to do it? I don't know. My staff will be mad at me. So she didn't. And that's why the Democrats are eating themselves alive. So we'll get into all of this stuff. Before we do, my friends, head over to preservegold.com/TimPool and check out Preserve Gold. Now, my friends, you've heard me say it before. When it comes to physical precious metals, we love Preserve Gold. Our friends over at Preserve Gold have an exclusive offer for my viewers right now where you can get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase as well as a free guide. So check them out on X. Preserve Gold has hundreds of five-star reviews, millions of dollars in trusted transactions with happy clients. Again, head over to their X or text Tim to 50505 to learn more. And shout out to Preserve Gold for sponsoring the show, making this possible. With everything we're seeing and all the tremendous victories we've had, for everybody who said thank you to me, I say thank you back to all of you, the viewers who make all this possible. And I especially thank the sponsors like Preserve Gold because they make this possible as well. But don't forget, we also sponsor ourselves over at castbrew.com. Buy coffee. We got some great coffee. We got Appalachian Nights, Rise with Roberto Jr., and Stand Your Grounds. But we also got Colombian for those people who just want a good cup of Joe. Castbrew.com, pick it up, and also head over to Timcast.com. Click Join Us to become a member. Why? Join the movement. Be a part of the mission. Many people asked him, how do we get involved? How do we meet people? How do we be a part of this? Well, we have a Discord server. When you go to Timcast.com and you become a member, your membership supports this company, makes this show possible. And then you get access to the Discord server to hang out with like-minded individuals. There are meetups, there's pre-shows, after-shows, and a members-only uncensored show where you get to call in and talk to us and our guests. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Chad Prather.
It's good to be with you, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Who are you? What do you do?
Rocking and rolling. Podcasting, Chad Prather Show. Comedian, musician, all over the country. Doing all the good stuff. Making people laugh. Making fun of the world we're living in, and today has been a golden day.
It's a golden day.
For the world of comedy.
We went out and bought champagne. I as soon as I got the news, I ran to the car and I was like, we're getting champagne.
Yeah.
So this is going to be exciting. Thanks for hanging out. We got Brett hanging out.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Yep, I'm Brett. We host Pop Culture Crisis. Oh, there goes the champagne right there. Go,
Boom.
Phil.
You did it without spilling a drop.
Not a drop. You can't spray it everywhere because there's electronics all over the place.
I used to be a professional. I am Phil That Remains, Phil Labonte, lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains, anti-communist, counter-revolutionary, and controller of the celebratory champagne. So here we go.
You know, I was kind of nervous saying, like, do we celebrate now? He's not been confirmed. Yeah. No, today was too good a day. We take them when we can. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. I want every single obstructionist Republican who is going to make the move to block Matt Gaetz, I want you all to remember that if you do, you are ruining our champagne night. That is your fault.
You know, it's a big deal, too, because I don't remember the last time there was any type of cabinet appointment time after an election that got this much attention.
I do not drink.
Yeah.
I'm not like a teetotaler or anything. I'm not opposed to it. You know, I'm more just I try to be healthy. So today, I celebrate, and I hope everybody watching at home does, because here's the news from CNBC. Trump picks Rep. Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Absolutely incredible. Matt has responded, "It will be an honor to serve as President Trump's Attorney General." Trump said, "It is my great honor to announce that Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida is hereby nominated to be the Attorney General of the United States. Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney trained at the William and Mary College of Law, who has distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice. Few issues in America are more important than ending the partisan weaponization of our justice system. Matt will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in the DOJ. On the House Judiciary Committee, which performs oversight of DOJ, Matt played a key role in defeating the Russia hoax and exposing alarming and systemic government corruption and weaponization. He is a champion for the Constitution and rule of law. Matt will root out the systemic corruption at DOJ and return the department to its true mission of fighting crime and upholding our democracy and Constitution. We must have honesty, integrity, and transparency at the DOJ. Under Matt's leadership, all Americans will be proud of the Department of Justice once again." I couldn't believe when I saw it, because I first saw the Tulsi Gabbard news, DNI, and I was like, yes, let's go. And then Josie, the redhead libertarian, tagged me in the post. And then I got the notification. I clicked it, and it's Matt Gaetz, Attorney General. And I nearly dropped my protein shake. And I was just like, "Allison, do we have champagne?" And she said no. And so I went out and bought some.
See, this was the day where I immediately took to X and I said, well, at least they won't be talking about Pete Hegseth tonight. Because that overshadowed everything. I didn't have Matt Gaetz on the bingo card.
Me neither.
That was out of the blue.
I had no idea who was going to pick. And we still have, there's some people that we really want to see in his cabinet. So hopefully this does happen. But this came as a surprise to me. And this is a 10 out of 10.
Did you have an idea of who you thought he was going to appoint?
No idea.
No idea.
I mean, from Texas, we were kind of hoping for Ken Paxton.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bulldog. I mean, nobody's placed more lawsuits against the Biden administration than Paxton. And then there were a lot of people who said, well, Paxton will never get confirmed. But I said, this is a whole new MAGA movement. This isn't your grandma's GOP. Trump is going scorched earth. I mean, obviously with these picks. And my first thought when he said Matt Gaetz, I thought, well, maybe he is picking somebody that can't get confirmed, because then the next person doesn't seem as controversial. But I think if we're talking about recess placements, it may not matter.
It's literally the art of the deal right there.
Yeah. Well, so let me play this clip for you. This is Aaron Rupar says Matt Gaetz already resigned.
Matt and I were classmates. We came to Congress at the same time in the 115th Congress in January 2017. And alphabetically, we're seated right next to one another in Judiciary Committee. We served there together for 7 years. Some of y'all who cover Judiciary know those are long meetings. So I got to know Matt very well. Look, I'll say this. Everyone who served with him will tell you he's one of the most intelligent members of Congress. He's an accomplished attorney. He's very concerned about the lawfare that has been occurring in the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, and the fact that the American people have lost their faith in our institutions of justice because of everything that we've seen. He's a reformer in his mind and heart, and I think that he'll bring a lot to the table on that. I think out of deference to us, he issued his resignation letter effective immediately
Wow.
to Congress. That caught us by surprise a little bit, but I asked him what the reasoning was, and he said, well, you can't have too many absences. So under Florida state law, there's about an 8-week period to select and fill a vacant seat. And so by doing so today, that allows me, I've already placed a call to Governor DeSantis in Florida and said, let's start the clock. He's in Italy at the moment, and so we're going to talk first thing in the morning about this. And if we start the clock now, if you do the math, we may be able to fill that seat as early as January 3rd when we take the new oath of office for the new Congress. So Matt would have done us a great service by making that decision as he did on the fly.
So I am a little bummed to hear that the best member of Congress will no longer be in Congress, but now we're going to have the best possible AG, and I'm hoping he can get done the things that he's talked about. I'm not going to be so naive to think that even with AG Matt Gaetz, he solves every problem we've ever wanted solved. I think he'll do his best, and I don't know who else who would do better.
None of the appointments are about solving everything, and I mean we're all pretty much on the same page here with this, but I'm going to just articulate it regardless. These appointments, all the people that are appointments, are about having people that are not the swamp monsters, right? The people that actually will do the things that Donald Trump has promised, that will actually take real steps, tangible, real steps to roll back the administrative state, roll back the regulatory state, and roll back the power and influence of the federal government over the average person's life. I just saw a tweet today, just a few minutes ago. Elon Musk tweeted it out or retweeted it. The average person has a regulatory burden of $15,000 per person because of the additional expenses that are on everyday products and the just living in the United States because of the regulation, because of the regulatory state. That is absurd. It's ridiculous. And then as for Matt Gaetz, people that are freaking out about Matt Gaetz, they're freaking out because he will do the things that the president is looking for him to do. And when it was Barack Obama and Barack Obama's AG, he said that he's my guy, he's got my back, etc. There is not going to be much daylight between Matt Gaetz and President Trump.
But Gaetz also wants revenge. And I say that somewhat tongue in cheek. Donald Trump probably is deeply upset over what they did to him. And one of the criticisms that the left is lobbing at Trump is that the reason he chose Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, and these other individuals like Pete Hegseth is that he is trying to prevent, now here's how they're framing it. He's trying to prevent sound reasoned minds from disagreeing with him. And he's pulling in a bunch of yes men. And the way the right is framing it is, this time around, there will be no quiet coup against the popular president. This is a popular mandate. And already people are pissed off that, this is other big news of the day, that it was Thune who won the Senate majority leadership when the people wanted Scott. So people are already starting to get worried. But with moves like this, it's looking like it's not going to matter.
No, it's and I'll tell you, it's there's a lot of people out there who are worried, saying that he jumped the gun or we're going to end up losing seats in the Senate or the Congress. But the beauty of it is this is Ron DeSantis's Florida. So when you're taking people out of those seats or those people are resigning from those seats in a state like that, you're going to replace them with other good conservatives. And let's also face the fact that we've seen the lawfare that's happened over the last couple of years. Merrick Garland was a bulldog for the Biden administration, and now they're crying and weeping because Donald Trump just put a bulldog for the Trump administration in here, and they're worried about lawfare. So they're literally worried about what they've been doing now happening to them. So cry harder. But the beauty of it is we can literally, as quote, conservatives, watch the government, if not get smaller, at least a little more limited. I mean, that's what we're in this thing for, right? That's what we want. We don't, I've seen in the last few years what unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., the people who are actually making the decisions go from 2.5 million to 4.5 million. I mean, how big can we let this blob get? It's consuming everything, like you said.
We want the people that have been elected to do what Republicans have been giving lip service about for the entirety of my life, to actually shrink the size of government. And I think that the people that the president has picked, the president-elect Trump has picked, are actually motivated to do those things. There was something else that Elon Musk made that relates to something Tim said earlier. He tweeted that if there are not people that are on board with Donald Trump's agenda, that are Republicans that are looking to stymie it, he's going to primary him. And if that happens, people like Tim, people like myself, we're going to be aware of it, and we're going to be out there amplifying Elon Musk's voice. We're going to be, along with a slew of other podcasters, people that are looking to hold the government accountable. And everyone is aware of how powerful X is. if you're out there and you're looking to stymie the president's agenda, the agenda that the American people have voted for, clearly, very clearly, then you're going to end up getting primaried. You're going to have people working against you. You're going to lose your seat in Congress. If you're a senator, you might lose your Senate seat. You will get primaried and you will be removed from office.
I said it a little bit more forcefully. I said anyone who obstructs or blocks this confirmation, the confirmation of Matt Gaetz, I will use the full weight of whatever political influence I have to make sure you lose your primary. I will travel to speaking events. I will talk on this show. I will never forget it. And I never forgot when Shelley Moore Capito in West Virginia supported red flag laws. I won't forget it, because we're not going to play this game where you think I got 6 years in the Senate and I can just trample over the people and their rights. And then 6 years later, when the primary comes up, you forget about it. And they're going to try and play this game where they're going to say, well, you don't want the Democrat, do you? So I guess you better support me. But we have a movement now. Yeah. And that means if people like Shelley Moore Capito wants to have red flag laws, she cuts backroom deals saying, I'll get mine, you get yours, and then lies about it later. I guarantee you there's going to be dozens of West Virginians who want to run for that Senate seat, who will get the full weight of support from the entire podcast presidency network, we'll call it now. They're calling this the podcast presidency. All of the shows that Trump went on, all of the shows that organically said, this is the guy. These people are going to stand in opposition to every single one of these members of Congress who obstructs the popular mandate.
It feels like what they want to do is to wait out the 4 years so that everybody can just fall back into the same pattern of the blob. So the idea is you get through the 4 years where he makes whatever changes he can, and then eventually you will just fall back into, well, he's not there anymore. The interest isn't there anymore like it was before, and we will just fall back with typical blob Republicans.
This administration has 18 months to get done what it wants to do. It's not 4 years, unfortunately. It has 18 months before people start checking out because they're going to be running for their seat in Congress. And then after midterms, then it's all about the presidency. So go ahead.
Let's pull up this tweets. Right now, many people are saying that Matt Gaetz may be nominated by Donald Trump, but there's no way they're going to confirm him. In fact, I believe already several Republicans said that he's not a serious contender and that they're going to have to think about it. They don't know if this makes sense.
Primary.
Yeah.
Well, outside of the primary, there is another way that Donald Trump seeks to have the people he believes in these positions. Ed Wellen says, hope it's wrong, but I'm hearing through the grapevine about this bonkers plan. Trump would adjourn both houses of Congress under Article 2, Section 3, and then recess appoint his cabinets. As predicate for Trump's exercise of adjournment power, one house of Congress would seek other houses' consent to adjourn and be denied. So Speaker of the House would need to be complicit in evisceration of the Senate's advice and consent role. House Speaker Mike Johnson needs to say no to this right away. Well, the reality is, if the Senate says we're not going to confirm Trump's cabinet, then Speaker Johnson can say, we seek to adjourn. They say no. Trump says, Article 2, Section 3, you're adjourned. Okay, now my cabinet gets to work in a recess appointment.
Yeah. And this is a different Donald Trump. I am so thankful, looking back in hindsight, that Donald Trump did not get placed in the presidency in 2020. Now, we all hated it. We were, all the stuff, the outcries. But this is a Trump now who's been through the ringer. I mean, they've tried to kill him. The lawfare, the indictments, the felonies, the accusations, just drug through the mud. This is a guy who's come back with certain people built around him, with certain things now that he has a knowledge of that he did not have. I mean, if he'd have gotten the presidency in 2020, we'd still be dealing with the relevancy of Mike Pence. This is a different guy he's got captains of industry, business, entertainment, entrepreneurial minds around him, whether it's Musk, who, by the way, Musk has even come out and said today that if you try to stop these appointments, he's going to place money behind the candidates who are going to run against these people in order to primary them. And you know what people are sick of? You remember when Trump did go into office in 2016? We hated the ACA, we hated Obamacare, but everybody knew Hillary Clinton was going to be the president, right? Everybody expected that. So when Trump got into office, all the Republicans in the House and the Senate, they were surprised. And so they didn't have a plan to replace Obamacare. And so what do we still live with is something like that. This has always been a Republican Party that doesn't plan. They don't have a strategy. They're not willing to do anything. These moves that Trump is making is a guy who he's ready to drop the hammer on these deals. He is finally ready and able in this situation, and highly motivated, I would add, to actually drain the swamp.
To fix these problems. Take a look. I pulled up Article 2, Section 3, which says, he shall from time to time give the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them, with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Here's my bet. Trump's going to go for a standard appointment, a standard confirmation. When the Senate plays dirty games and says Trump cannot get his people in, they're trying to cement his feet so that the popular mandate cannot be fulfilled. The House then says, then we seek to adjourn. If there is a disagreement as to the time of adjournment, Trump then says, you are hereby adjourned. He then does a racist appointment and says, until you guys come back, we are going to have these people serving in these roles. Without the confirmation, but at least the jobs will be filled in I think it will be like an acting role. So he'll get them. And the power exists within the executive branch. I know what the left is going to say to this. They're going to say Trump's gone full fascist and has effectively disbanded the Congress.
I can already see the articles.
And the memes they're going to put out, they're going to claim he's the emperor. And they're going to show, Padme being like, oh, this is how, they're actually not Padme. They already did that one where she says, this is how liberty dies. They're going to do the scene with Darth Vader telling Princess Leia in A New Hope that I have dissolved the Senate in the opening scene. And they're going to put his head on Darth Vader. I'm predicting that, they're going to do it because they're predictable. And this is planned out. And so that's my bet. Only if they obstruct does the adjournment happen and the recess appointments happen.
I mean, it goes back to what you're saying about how they're saying that he only wants to hire yes men, when what they actually mean is we want him to hire people that we support. That way they can obstruct him in office, right? They're upset. That's why I said that this is the first time in ages that I remember there being any type of hoopla around appointments, because they're actually looking to appoint people from outside of D.C.
Yeah, none of their criticisms matter.
Yeah.
The only thing there is a possibility that that people won't be confirmed, and that's fine. But anyone that's making a stink about the people that he's appointed, nothing that they say matters. It's all just garbage. The president does get to select his cabinet, right? It's normal for one or two people to not get confirmed. But they're not going to be able to say, oh, no, you're not going to be able to do this. The idea that the people that are in Congress or in the Senate now, or even worse, in the bureaucracy, are in any way empowered to stymie the president's desires, that is just a creation by people that don't like Donald Trump and want to keep the blob as it is. They want to keep the bureaucracy the way that it is. They have plans. They want to keep their 401ks. They want to keep their friends employed. They don't want to get fired. I want the population surrounding Washington, D.C. to drop by at least 50%. I want home prices to plummet, because I want people to get fired. I want jobs removed. The entire government needs to be slashed. The idea that we need this much government in DC, that we need this much government for the American people to be able to live the lives that they want and to have have a decent and good life. That's a fabrication created by people that are just looking to scoop out of the trough. It is an absolute abomination. The government has become an absolute abomination, and it should be cut as deeply as possible. And yes, there's going to be unemployed people. There are going to be people that are going to lose their jobs, and that's good. That's the point.
We got to break the addiction. So what happens with the government is they create these bureaucratic jobs. Then they get scared that by firing too many people, you hurt the local economy, and that causes a backlash. It's the same thing with the medical industry. They say this all the time. Well, it's 20% of our economy. So if we do away with the bureaucracy, then our economy is going to take a major hit. And it's like, okay, that's called an addiction, where you have to wean yourself off of it. And it's going to be difficult. No one said it would be easy. But if we just decide to stay with a detriment to this country, then we just get worse over a long period of time. So Elon did say there probably will be a rough patch. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I'm all for it. You know why? Because this side of the aisle, we can handle it. This side of the aisle has a higher likelihood of surviving a bear attack. Not that we'd want anyone to, but come on, it's true.
Yeah. And the thing that has bothered me for so long, and I've said it for years, is so many conservatives quote, conservatives, have become government dependent. They're just as bad as the people on the left. They've come to rely on a big government. They're going to have to go through some lean times here and pull themselves off and become independent, self-sufficient. The thing that philosophically you proclaim politically to believe in, now you're going to have to live that out, and that's going to be great. As a side note, if you guys paid attention to how young these appointments are, I mean, this takes us back to our founding fathers. I mean, we're talking, our country was founded by 24-year-olds, and now you've got J.D. Vance, who's 40, Tulsi Gabbard, who's 42, Vivek. I mean, you could name all these people off, Matt Gaetz. I mean, this is the 44 and under club, which I'm excited about. These are firebrands. And to your point, Phil, I want Carthaginian peace. I want peace because we have not only defeated them, I want to plow under their fields and pour salt on it so nothing will ever grow there again. I don't want any more lopping off of genitals. I don't want any more hormone blockers. I don't want any more CRT. I don't want any more DEI. I don't want any more affirmative action. I don't want any more of this, gender confusion. I don't want admirals in dresses. I don't want any of this crap going on. I want those ideologies, those progressive death ideologies dead.
Pete Hegseth. That's why they're saying he got chosen. Because he wrote that book saying we got to get wokeness out of the military, we got to bring lethality, and we got to bring back meritocracy.
Right.
The ultimate irony in all of this is that the guy who wants to slash the government and get the federal government out of your life, less involved, is the one that they're calling a fascist.
Yeah.
That will never not be funny to me.
Yeah.
Well,
and Joe Biden was shaking his hand with a big smile on his face today.
I love that photo.
Yeah.
There's photos from the White House.
He voted for him. Come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
We know this.
And I'll say it again. I don't think Joe Biden resigned from the race. I think he refused, and then they got someone to go on his X account and posted a letter without him knowing.
Yeah.
And then the next day told him, we resign on your behalf.
I've said numerous times on a comedy stage. I've said numerous times in recent months. I've said I think Joe Biden read the teleprompter that night, woke up the next day, and said, "What the did I?
Because
what did I read?"
It was a day before. He was like, "I'm not going to drop out."
Yeah.
Then the next day, it's like, "Here's a letter saying I'm dropping out," and no video statement.
Yeah.
Which I think somebody went. They conspired against him, and then he and Jill said, "Then we're voting for Trump."
I'll float this out there. You know how we've talked about how they drugged Joe to wake him up for a little while? I think they were drugging him to dumb him down. I think we've seen more life out of Joe since he resigned and he became irrelevant.
I don't think they just
No, he's sleeping now.
He had more energy today than I've seen in ages.
But
the guy was. I don't know which Joe we're talking about.
He's not working anymore, and he's not campaigning.
Yeah.
So when you do see him, it's the hour or two where he's got energy.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the CIA super drugs they're giving him, right?
I want it. I'd like to ride the lightning for about an hour.
My favorite post was the drugs they're going to give Joe. This was before the debate. They said the drugs they're going to give Joe Biden for the debate are basically the Manhattan Project of uppers.
Yeah.
And then we all saw, in fact, he did not get anything.
No.
Well, that's like if they
he
wanted
felt
to get rid of him. If they wanted to get rid of him, then they would just say, here, these are those. And they give him like sugar pills and there's nothing there, knowing he's going to bomb and that they're going to be able to replace him.
Let's jump to this next story from CNN. Trump picks Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. This is epic. So a lot of people are saying is that with the appointment, or I should say the nomination of Matt Gaetz as AG and Tulsi Gabbard for DNI, he is handing over departments to the people that were wrongly targeted by those departments. For everybody who doesn't know, Tulsi Gabbard was wrongly targeted, placed on a terror watch list, and Matt Gaetz was falsely accused of a ton of crap by the DOJ. CNN reports Donald Trump said Wednesday he selected former Democratic Congresswoman turned Trump supporter Tulsi Gabbard as his DNI pick. The selection of Gabbard is sure to set up a major confirmation fight. Gabbard, an Army National Guard veteran, unsuccessfully ran for president in 2020 as a Democrat, but said she was leaving the party in 2022. She campaigned with Trump and served on his transition team. They say in many ways, the transformation of Gabbard from isolationist Democratic iconoclast to MAGA darling has been a gradual evolution, culminating in her announcement before the November election that she was joining the Republican Party. Blah, 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 blah. They say they don't know how influential she'll be. Then it's just a bunch of opinion stuff masquerading as news, not interested. Then they say she's parroted Vladimir Putin, blah, blah, blah. During Gabbard's presidential bid in the Democratic primary, Hillary Clinton suggested in an interview that the Russians were grooming her to run as a third-party candidate.
They also don't seem to mention that she ended Kamala Harris's whole run the first time around.
But of course, CNN is gonna include the nonsense Russia allegations because it's the only thing they have. I said it before and I'll say it again. The liberal economic order was created after World War II, and the men who created that were crazy dudes smoking cigarettes on the cover of magazines after blowing up Japan. I have the Life magazine from I think it was a general, what's his name? I forgot his name. Dropped the bombs and he's smoking the cigarettes literally just in the other room. These guys were crazy. And they created the liberal economic order. Then they had kids and told those kids, you have to maintain the liberal economic order around the world and we will be the dominant superpower. And those kids went, you got it, Dad. Those kids grew up, inherited a system. They had no idea how it was built, but they could kind of maintain it. Then they had kids, and the grandkids of the liberal world order said, we have no idea how to run this. Everything we're doing is failing. That's it. What I think we're seeing now is, they say wealth lasts 3 generations.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the people who made the deep state, who made the liberal economic order, have long since passed, and their grandchildren, it's the 3rd generation. And that is lost on these kids. You know, they say wealth lasts 3 generations because a guy works hard, rolls up his sleeves, builds a business, figures it out, becomes rich. Has a kid, teaches him the ropes. The kid sees it firsthand. Third hand, the grandkid doesn't quite understand how to run the machine. And so it eventually falls apart. They sell it off and then the wealth kind of fizzles away. And that's what we're seeing now with the deep state. They don't know how to maintain it. So the only thing they can do is go on CNN and say, but she's a Russian. Ain't nobody cares. You called Trump Hitler and nobody cared. And he won the popular vote.
Yeah, the name calling has become white noise, right? We've just gone ahead and embraced the labels because their whole agenda is if they can label you, they can categorize you. If they can categorize you, they can put you in a box, put you on a shelf. They don't have to deal with you because again, you're labeled. With Tulsi, I like new converts, right? I like people who are just on fire for whatever they've just discovered, whether it's faith or people who are newly rich. I mean, like they suddenly have discovered a whole new lifestyle. Tulsi to me is that. She's a convert, right? She came along and she's kind of like a homo coming out of the closet. I mean, she's excited right now, and I'm all for that. So I'm like, let's turn her loose and see. Are there things she said in the past that I don't necessarily trust? Yeah, of course. But I mean, nobody said anything that's perfect. But
she was being groomed to run the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
They viewed her as a darling. They were looking at her as the future of the party. She was the talent they needed. She is a woman of color. Right? So the feminist intersectional movement, she was perfect. Right. But she backed Bernie Sanders in 2016, and rightly so. Now, I say at the time, rightly so. Bernie's turned out to be a major disappointment. But at the time, she was basically saying, you guys, this doesn't work. We got to go a different direction. We got to go a populist direction. Hillary Clinton got angry. They said to her, you're out, basically. So what happens? Well, she's now a Republican, and the Democrats have no backbench. Who do they got?
I have no idea.
Is there anybody that you can think of?
I think the person that they most likely will be going with, I'm not sure about AOC. The thing is, Congress people don't tend to get elected president. Though AOC, I do think that out of all of the people that could become a presidential candidate,
frightening.
It would be AOC. But Congress people don't tend to make it to the office of the president. I do think that it's frequently governors, and I do think that Gavin Newsom is extremely charismatic. Not that he has a good record to run on. I mean, he just his party got walloped in this past election, really, really, really bad.
I mean, but still, like we said, though, like it feels like they can just dump someone in. Right, a lot of time.
I think Josh Shapiro's another option in regards to that. Who's again is another.
Did you hear that he rejected?
Yeah, okay. So that was the question I was gonna ask you one day. I was like, if Pennsylvania is as important as they say it is, how do you not choose Shapiro as your running mate?
He's Jewish.
No. The rumor is the reporting came out. He rejected the offer.
Oh, really? Okay.
They went to him and said, we want you for VP. And he said, yeah, not interested.
That's the only thing I can think of because it made no sense with Pennsylvania.
It just never made sense to me that Walz was the first pick.
Yeah.
I do think that if it was Josh Shapiro, I do think that she would have won, honestly. I think she would have taken Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I'm sure she would have.
Wow.
I mean,
they were going to win Minnesota anyway.
Well, but I think Trump still wins. He then wins with what?
Because he did
312. That's 19.
He got everything else. So
293.
But no, I mean, Shapiro, that's interesting. I didn't know that he had turned that down. But I just kept thinking the whole time there was no way that Fancy Pants was the first choice on a deal like that.
I do think that Gavin Newsom probably will be the direction that they go in the future. Like I said, they were able to drop in a candidate without even putting her through primaries and still come, they got walloped, but still they won all the states that they would normally win outside of the swing states. And they're going to bring in someone like Gavin Newsom. Even if they went with AOC, they can't really do that anymore because as she's become more establishment, she used to have a great grasp on social media and did really, really well at reaching younger people. And that doesn't feel the same anymore because she feels just like the rest of the swamp creatures anyways.
And I hope we don't forget how bad, in the next 4 years, I hope we don't forget how bad Gavin Newsom is. I mean, he is, you take the Biden administration with Kamala Harris, all the progressive wokeism, you multiply it exponentially. He is a disciple of Xi Jinping. And I hope that doesn't get lost. We have got to overwhelmingly change people's hearts and minds with, money in your pocket, freedom, liberty, the ability to speak, removing some of the crazy algorithms that are out there that are censoring people. And so that people say, oh, this is what freedom tastes like. And somebody, Sarah Gonzalez, she messaged me the other day. She said, historically, have we ever seen this many things happen just in the days following an election? And I said, well, you could argue that when Reagan beat Carter, the Iran hostages were released, various things happened. I said, but it's like the world was stuck underwater, gasping for air, and now it automatically started correcting because finally there was oxygen to breathe again.
Let's just pause and think about AG nomination, Matt Gaetz' AG nomination, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. Let's just pause there and go back to when we were talking about how many historically unprecedented things have we experienced in the past year.
Yeah.
It's exponentially increasing.
Yeah.
So in a good way so far. I hope it remains in a good way, but I got to tell you this. With this appointment of Tulsi Gabbard, oh boy, Matt Gaetz, as much as this is probably the most hilarious thing I've heard in politics in a long time and a dream scenario, I do not see how the deep state will allow these confirmations. And I know we talked about racist appointments. Well, I certainly hope Trump's got legit security because the threats against him are real, both from these crackpots who went after him a couple times already. The Iranian teams I genuinely believe exist. There's a lot of people who are like, no, it's the deep state. I'm like, dude, he killed Soleimani. Right. And Iran expressly stated they're coming for him. So sure, you can argue it's a cover or whatever, but I do think Iran wants to get Trump as well, especially before he becomes president and then puts the boot down on these other countries.
Well,
this is the most important time. Trump needs quadruple the security. He must get to Inauguration Day, and then he must get these confirmations through.
I know that the Secret Service had less than perfect or less than maximum security on Donald Trump when he was running, but now that he's president-elect, if I understand correctly, and I'm not a Secret Service expert, but if I understand correctly, the president-elect gets the same security that the actual president does. So hopefully, he's treated as the actual president. But when he gets into office, he needs to do a thorough cleaning of Secret Service as well.
Well, the question is he actually president-elect? So formally, I believe it's when the vote is counted on January 6th. Right now, it's just we call him president-elect because we've decided based on media reports that he's won. Actual president-elect, I believe, is when January 6th comes around and Congress says the electoral votes are for President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, and then he's got 14 days or whatever until between president-elect and president. So they may try and argue that he's not even president-elect right now.
You guys remember 4 years ago when Joe Biden, when they were debating, the election, and he kept coming out and giving talks or whatever behind that seal of the office of the president-elect?
Yeah.
Like, where'd you come up with this? And I don't know if you've noticed, but did you see the video, by the way, of the robot dogs that are on Mar-a-Lago's grounds now?
Those are privately owned. He owns those.
He owns them.
Yeah, it's not provided by Secret Service.
It's so much of what Trump is doing is privately funded. I mean, like the transitions, all of these things he's doing. He's like, I don't trust the deep state. I don't trust anybody in this situation. But I do say let's put him in an armored room and protect him. And J.D. Vance gives a great life insurance policy, in my opinion, but still.
And so let's keep them both separate.
Yeah.
But under the 20th Amendment, president-elect is the term they use. It is assumed, because it's not clearly defined, that it is when the Electoral College votes are counted by Congress January 6th. And then from that period on, he is president-elect until the inauguration. However, the media uses the term president-elect because we as a people generally just consider once the media says you've won, you've won.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Joe Biden today in the meeting referred to him as the president-elect. Yeah. And the former president.
Yeah. And everyone's basically, I think it's informally now that once the media decides you've won, you are president-elect. That's kind of a scary prospect if you're to ask me.
Yeah.
But that's the way they're playing it. And so long as it's Trump right now who's got those protections, I'm glad he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JD
I mean,
Vance,
listen, I'll tell you honestly. I think we take a pause there simply because every one of us has thought, and we've seen the deepest, darkest machinations of things that could happen. These strategies planned against the man's life, and all of us are sitting there. I know, a few days after the election, I'd wake up to pee at 2:00 in the morning because I'm old, and I'd walk into the bathroom thinking, did this really happen? Like, we really got this? We won all of these things?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we actually got the popular vote?
Yeah.
Like, did I dream? Can I pinch myself? Am I awake?
well, apparently, have you guys heard that Trump's got robot dogs at Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah.
He's got those robo-dogs walking around.
Running around.
I got to be honest, I think they're largely worthless.
Yeah.
They're good to alert people, but, so I've had people ask, like, hey, why don't you get some for here, right? Because they're like $25,000 each. And I'm like, dude, anybody who wants to break in will just destroy it.
Yeah.
Trump's got Secret Service, and he's in a relatively urban area. He's literally in an urban area with Mar-a-Lago. So maybe it makes more sense to have robot security dogs because they'll alert you to the presence of somebody. Out here in the middle of nowhere, robot dog ain't doing nothing.
Well, I know that I don't want to. He'll get mad at me for telling his business, but Glenn Beck got some for his ranch, and he's got them basically where he can see what the dogs see. So his security can see what the dogs see because there's a camera on those things.
Do they go and charge themselves?
I don't know. But it's pretty interesting the stuff you can do. Like, you teach them tricks and stuff. Me personally, I want to shoot it with a shotgun.
Yeah, that's $25,000.
Yeah, but still, I don't want Skynet to become self-aware.
Right, I get it. We had I have a whole bunch of aerial drones that we were doing research and live streaming with, and I brought one out to the Mojave Desert during the DEF CON hacker convention. They have a shootout. So one guy had a belt-fed 7.62 or whatever, and people would sit down and then we had the drone. We strung it up, and we put targets on it, and we were flying around back and forth, and then the drone blew up because that's what happens. Yeah. But they were like, well, we're sorry. And I'm like, no, it's cool. It's a donation. Let's jump to this story from the Post Millennial. Jack Smith to resign before Trump inauguration, according to a report. Trump has promised to fire Smith within 2 seconds of being sworn in. I think how much? Okay, let's take a bet. Right. So Jack Smith he's the guy who's leading the federal charges against Donald Trump. They've been dropped, and now he's going to retire. How many of you guys here think that some of these guys, maybe even Jack Smith, will flee the country?
That's I haven't thought about that, but
I'm going to go ahead and say it's a 100% guarantee that at least one will flee the country.
Yeah,
at least one.
Well, Michael Cohen's already said he was going to do it.
Because of the Matt Gaetz appointment?
Because of Trump winning.
But in general,
and
because he'll actually put in people in charge that can go after people that were using lawfare against him.
Man, I mean, I have to assume, especially with the Matt Gaetz appointment. Yeah. So when I heard about the Matt Gaetz appointment, I said, holy crap, that's not a shot across the bow, okay? That was Trump aiming the cannon at the enemy ship and then waving and saying, yeah, I hope you're ready for Inauguration Day. You're all going to get arrested. We're going to charge you guys. We're going to investigate everything. If Trump had appointed someone, not Matt Gaetz, but maybe like a DC insider that we kind of liked, you could call that a shot across the bow where it's like, yeah, he's getting serious, play ball, guys. The Matt Gaetz appointment is him being like, what's coming next will make you angry.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder who knew what a couple of days ago when Trump's attorney said, listen, Letitia James, you better stop or we're going to put your fat ass in prison. That was wonderful. You got to think, we know what's coming. Like, we know what's in the arsenal here. We know what NUKE is in the silo. The difference between Jack Smith doesn't have Donald Trump type funding and backing to be able to fight the lawfare if it comes his way. I mean, they start going after Jack Smith, his life is ruined. It's over. It's done. And I mean, these guys, they literally signed the dotted line. They signed their own death warrant when they went after Trump. Because again, they had every expectation of winning this thing and never having to face any consequences. But here we are. I mean, it's gonna be a fun time to watch. It really is.
That was crazy because, like you said, I assumed that they can't imagine there's ever going to be a time where they're actually going to lose. Yeah. So they're willing to put these types of things into play, knowing that if it does work out against them, but they haven't lost for so long. Outside of 2016, It's been swamp monsters forever, so they don't even know what it's like to lose.
Short-term thinking has been kind of the standard. I mean, you look at the talk of getting rid of the filibuster, right? There was all kinds of people that were all for it up until Donald Trump won, and then just today, Jayapal said, oh, no, well, now that we're not in power, I wouldn't support getting rid of the filibuster, which speaks
expanding the court now either.
Yeah, and it speaks to the fact that these people don't care, and I've said this multiple times, they don't care about the structure of the U.S. government. They don't care about federalism. The only thing they care about is exercise of power.
Right.
They want to exercise power, and anything that in any way inhibits them from exercising power is bad. Not, maybe down the road this could be used against us. I mean, Harry Reid screwed up with getting rid of, I think it was the filibuster that he got rid of in the Senate or whatever. I think it was the 60%. And either way,
the Supreme Court appointments too.
Well, that led to him.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell said, you're going to regret this.
Yeah.
You're going to regret doing this. We said that we weren't going to change the rules, and you changed the rules.
Did you see the
We agreed to it. You're going to regret this. And he did immediately.
Did you see the report from Daily Wire? It was Ash Short, where she said she called all of the Democrat members who had been in favor of ending the filibuster to get their comment on whether they wanted to end the filibuster now. Every single one was no comment. Or did not respond to the question.
Yeah.
Because now they want to keep the filibuster. Do they want to expand the Supreme Court? It's like Seamus was saying. Donald Trump should offer an olive branch to the Democrats and say, the first thing we're going to do is give the Democrats what they've been begging for the past couple of years. We're going to reach across the aisle and we are going to push through Democrat legislation, which is ending the filibuster and expanding the Supreme Court. We'll be, of course, appointing 4 more Supreme Court justices on January 21st, and that's all for you, Democrats.
And the irony being that once you did that, they would cry about federal overreach, despite the fact that when they're in power, they don't care that they do the same thing. It's infuriating.
You remember when Democrats hated the Electoral College and it was all about the popular vote?
Yeah.
That's why him winning the popular vote was the chef's kiss.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing because now it takes whether it's the filibuster, the popular vote, or whatever, it takes all of the arguments away from them. Because and that was the crazy thing. We talked about it numerous times. How come, and of course we know why no one asked Kamala Harris any hard questions about things like court packing, because they were all paid. These were just, her interviews were just paid advertisements, right? But why did they never ask her the hard questions about what her full intentions were? Mm-hmm. We knew what they were. Nobody wanted to talk about those things.
When she was campaigning back in the primary for the Democrats in 2019 and 20, she was explicit on all of her ideas.
Yeah.
And she lost miserably, didn't get a single delegate. This time around, when she was running, she was like, "I better say nothing."
Yeah,
and so that's how she went.
Yeah, and then suddenly she supported fracking. She had a Glock. She was gonna shoot whoever broke into the house. She was a pistol packing VP mama.
In California, where granted she would be insulated from the law, but if any normal people did that, they would go to jail. They would be charged with murder, and it is unlikely that it would be found to be justifiable. The Democrats, and I've said this multiple times lately, Democrats hate America. They hate the American system. They hate the American people. They only care about exercising their power. They don't like the fact that people are empowered by their own natural rights to do how they want, and those rights are protected by the Constitution and by the Bill of Rights. They hate all of those things because they know better. You're just a dumb idiot. They know how you should be living your life, and the fact that you would want to live your life in a way different to what they tell you makes you a bad person.
And as they say, this is why everyone who's a Democrat goes to a 4-year college and then goes and gets 8 years of schooling, because everybody else is a backwater hick idiot, not understanding, maybe it's time for just the tiniest bit of introspection, just the tiniest bit of looking inside and asking yourself, maybe I'm the problem.
I'm going to keep saying,
why are we entertaining people who got degrees in folklore and mythology? Why are they entertaining their political opinions? Now, to be fair, that is the least likely degree someone could get. That's why I chose it. But most people get degrees. If you took all these people, I'm going to be completely honest. If you took your average American with no degree, and you took your average American with a degree and dropped them in a random place in the middle of the woods, which one do you think is going to be more likely to survive?
Yeah, it ain't going to be the guy that studied sociology for 4 or 5 years.
No, it's going to be the dude who tends to chickens every day in the morning. His hands are in the mud. His net worth is very, very little. His house is falling apart, but he knows how to make it.
Yeah.
And this is the point. He may not be as well read as a college graduate, but it's the people who have to figure out how to survive.
Yeah.
who are going to survive. And the people who take out loans so that other people pay their bills so they can go and get a degree in folklore mythology aren't going to be able to figure this one out. So those people who get those degrees decide to go vote, telling the people who actually know how to survive, how to live their lives, it's backwards.
And they talk about it now when kids come out of college and they get their first job in whatever industry they're going into. They're saying that the people who hire them, they're saying they're unteachable. Like they do not know how to learn on their own, right? They say, here's a task, go do this task. They say, you need to teach me how to do every step of this task. Like, what did you go to school for? The whole point is that I assume that you getting your 4-year degree or 8-year degree meant that you had some ability to figure something out for yourself. But everybody knows that college does not teach you how to think for yourself. It certainly doesn't teach you how to actually act in a way that, you know what I'm saying? Like
well, here's the deal. When you have 30-year tenured professors who've lived their entire career in an academic bubble on a university setting, pushing their little papers around on a desk and testing their wild-eyed theories on, with Marxist backing and socialist ideals on impressionable young minds that are out away from mom and dad for the first time in their life. They've never tested those weird theories in the real world. And now you have a bunch of kids. This is why the strategy of the robes worked, whether it was the clergy, whether it was academia, the courts. This was the long walk. This was the long march. This is what the communists, the socialists, the Marxists, they knew if they did it little by little, they could brainwash people. So now, I'm telling people, somebody asked me the other day, a young man asked me, he said, what do you think about college and university? I said, if you have a very specific purpose in going, I mean, a doctor, like lawyer, you're going to be a brain surgeon, you're going to be an engineer, something like that, then okay, go with that express purpose. Yeah. But beyond that, stop funding bad ideology and walking away from it because we're wasting young minds in the name of education, which is not education at all. So we've churned out a bunch of people who are completely unaware. They might have a degree, but they don't have an education. They don't have common sense.
They think they do.
They think they do, and that's what makes them pompous assholes.
I mean, the same thing. Go ahead. But the same thing holds true. Like anything that you have to actually physically do yourself will stick in your brain better anyways, and that's the problem. Yeah. We're talking about the idea of physically going out and doing a task, which your brain retains better anyways. So if you're going out and you go to like film school, for instance, like I went to school for video production, and you learn everything about f-stop, aperture, and all these things. It's one thing to read about it, and then it's another thing to go put yourself into a bunch of different situations that forces you to engage with the material in front of you, with your equipment, and that is the difference between somebody who goes out into the world and engages with it and somebody who works in the theoretical. And we talk here in the theoretical, but that is very different from the people who have to go out and live it every day.
Let's jump to this story from the Daily Mail. Ladies and gentlemen, we have questions. Why did Kamala Harris not go on Joe Rogan's podcast? And well, there's a lot of speculation. She was scared. She knew she couldn't do it. The official argument was that she couldn't travel. She asked Joe to go to her. Joe said, no, we do the show, in studio. Joe went on to say that he knew that if he did that and flew out to them, there would be staff there. They would control the interview, and he didn't want to do it that way. That's not how they do the show. Well, now we have the real reason. It's simple. A Democrat insider admits the real reason Kamala Harris never sat down with Joe Rogan is because it would have upset her progressive staffers. That's right. To this cult, Joe Rogan is far right, and they said that it would have made them upset. When Rogan asked Kamala Harris to join him on the podcast, he revealed she only wanted to do an hour. Jennifer Palmieri, a liberal strategist and former senior advisor to Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, said it would have upset her far-left campaign workers. There was a backlash with some of our progressive staff that didn't want her to be on it, and how there would be a backlash, she said. Meanwhile, Rogan has continued to comment on the controversy himself, revealing things Harris refused to discuss. Quote, they had, I don't know how many conversations with my folks, but multiple conversations giving different dates, different times, different this, different that. And we knew that she was going to be in Texas, so I said open invitation. I think they had requirements on things that she didn't want to talk about. She didn't want to talk about marijuana legalization, which I thought was hilarious. That is funny. Harris posted on X that she would legalize marijuana, but there it is. He says he told Jimmy Dore during a 2020 discussion with Jimmy Dore, he said, I'd never voted right wing in my life. Never, never. I voted Democrat. Well, now you lost Joe Rogan. Congratulations. And the truth is Kamala Harris would not go on the show because Democrats are in a cult and too many staffers would have cried about it.
It's also indicative of the change between what the blob and the establishment sees as legacy media, which has always been controlled, something that they can always get their list of approved questions that they're allowed to talk about, when everybody knows that now the way forward is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance go on these podcasts and do 3 hours long form and actually get their ideas out to the public. Well, they don't want to do that. What they want to do is to give you an hour, and they want to give you cue cards with what you're allowed to talk about, because that's how they've controlled the narrative for the last 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah. And you're going to pay millions of people to the people who do, quote, interview you. And then they're going to come out after the fact and say, well, it's because of misinformation and disinformation that Kamala lost this election. Okay, if it's because of misinformation, you had a 3-hour free window. You did not have to pay Joe Rogan. He would have paid for you to get to Austin, Texas, to sit down with him, and you could have set the record straight. Any misinformation, disinformation, fake news, whatever, any lies out there about this candidate, she could have set that record straight. They refused to do it. And I guarantee you they didn't want to go on there because her staff would have gotten their feelings hurt, because they're too weak to walk into a room with a toxic masculine person, type A alpha personality like Joe Rogan and the guys around him. And so they didn't want to they didn't want to subject themselves to that. And so here we go. Can I get to some, like there are things, just looking back, Tim, something you said a minute ago. Looking back at this administration, can you go back and look at some of the weird things that I hope we can at some point get to the bottom of? Like when the dudes were showing their boobs on the White House lawn at the 4th of July party, you know, whose bag of cocaine was it? Like, can we get to the bottom of these things?
Hunter.
I think it was Kamala's. I've seen enough interviews with the mouth chewing and the nose picking and the stuff like that. But if you go back and look at the video of that day, everybody in the Biden family standing up on the mezzanine on the front of the White House had a post-nasal drip. I mean, even Jill was sucking back a 5-pound booger. But that, you know, like, I want to know more about who attacked Paul Pelosi. I need to know, you know, is Nancy, is that silicone or is that saline? I need to figure these are real stories that I'm hoping we can get to the bottom of.
I am absolutely not interested in
any of that. The other thing is, like, look, their desire to just stay away from Joe Rogan, that they don't even want to interact with him, is why you got campaign ads as bad as the ones that you got towards the, like, if there was anything that should have turned off everyone who was undecided, it was, hello there, fellow men. Look at these campaign ads. This is how men sit on truck beds. If you're not willing to go and sit down and talk with Joe Rogan, that's the type of campaign ad you get.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because they had a couple of these, you know, men should vote for Kamala, and they're clearly written by women. And you want to actually get guys, you could have done a 1-minute ad where she sat down with Joe Rogan, and you want to get guys, you don't need to be like, I'm a man, so I eat carburetors. That's what the guy said. And then the joke was, they were like, you mean carbonara? But the real ad that works for men is Joe Rogan being like, so what are you going to do if you become president? And then she's just like, nothing.
Get a soundbite about aliens. Just get Joe Rogan and her talking about aliens would have won people over more than those ads.
But you know, the Trump interview with Rogan was historically significant, because you have Rogan, who at this point in time, I mean, he is the new Oprah, arguably larger than Oprah ever was.
Oh, yeah, bigger, way bigger.
Way bigger. The reach is bigger. The platforms are bigger. There's too many different places you can hear Rogan. And then you have the most famous man, arguably, in the history of the world, Donald Trump, in terms of his exposure and the reach that he has. I mean, globally, everybody knows who Donald Trump is. And now he sits down with somebody bigger than Oprah. This is arguably, again, to use that word, the biggest, most important interview that's ever happened in history. And she had an opportunity to go in and sit down and do that for 3 hours. Unadulterated conversation.
But she can't. And it's not even about, look, even when they say it would have offended the progressive staffers, I believe that's true. But Kamala was probably terrified. You know, because, look, David Pakman, you know, we've been talking about him. He made a video where he's like, Democrats won't come on my show, and media is taking off. And it's like, yeah, Democrats don't come on this show or his show because they only exist in a reality where the news is fabricated for them in advance. Yep. The challenge for Democrats in going on shows is that even if they're right, they could run afoul of what the Democrats want to be right.
True.
And, you know, Nate Silver had this, he wrote this post-mortem, I brought it the other day, where he said, Republicans are happy when you agree with them some of the time. Democrats are mad if you don't agree with them all of the time. But that says something. It says that Republicans are willing to compromise and Democrats don't care if it's correct. You have to be on the other side. So if a Republican says, hey, I want to ban abortion, and you respond with, I'd like to restrict it to 12 weeks. The Republicans say, well, okay, let's talk about it. The Democrats then respond by saying, you're both far right, pro-life, and I agree with none of you. And if anyone tries to compromise in any regard, you're far right. How do you build a coalition or win government power if your position is, even when you are right, we oppose you?
Yeah. Well, this is why Kamala, a quote Democrat, cannot go in and sit down with Joe Rogan, a Democrat. You know, they can't.
Too many pitfalls from your own people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because the extreme has gotten so far off the wing to the left that it's, a theologian said years ago, he said, it's possible to get so far out in front of the people you're trying to lead that they mistake you for the enemy. And that's exactly what's happened with today's progressive left. They've gotten so far out in front of the Democratic Party that anybody that's got a fair mind, whether it's, the Bill Maher's of the world or the Joe Rogans or the Elon Musks or the Tulsi Gabbards, that they start identifying you as the enemy. And in essence, that's exactly what you've become.
Well, isn't it funny how a lot of these liberal personalities, not leftists, but liberals, are all of a sudden being like, oh, the left, man, I warned them. I can't believe it. But if you look at what they were saying a week or a month before, they were like, Trump's terrible. He can't win. Bill Maher's, he's got two viral clips. One where he's like, Trump's not going to win.
Right.
He won't win. I don't care. A couple 100,000 people maybe, but no one's going to vote for him. Kamala Harris is definitely going to win the popular vote. Then afterwards he goes, this is why I hate the left, because they're snobs, they're snobby, they're brats, okay? They're brats. And I'm like, dude, you were saying that Trump could not win and Kamala would definitely get the popular vote, and she didn't even get that. Yeah. As soon as this dude realized he was on the wrong side of history, he starts moderating. And I'm here, there's some other personalities I'm not going to name, but liberal personalities are all of a sudden being like, oh, yeah, I can't believe the Democrats were lying about that. Oh, they tricked me. Yeah, please. These celebrities got paid. I don't know how much. The rumors, so there are some rumors about some of these celebrities getting paid to do these sponsorships, but none of those are confirmed. I don't know if, Brett, if any of that was
not confirmed, but we did, we have talked about it. Like, most of it is just an ad anyways.
7-figure rumors.
Oh, rumors are that some people were paid like $1 million to do appearances and things like this.
Well, I heard 1.8 to Eminem. I heard $3 million to Lizzo.
I don't know if any of that's true.
We don't know, but
know.
But we do know that they raised $1.3 billion and then ended the campaign $20 million in debt.
Yeah. Now, hold on. That's a trick of the media, though. $20 million in debt. What does that mean? You got a credit card?
Well, it depends. Yeah, but
you have debt on it.
Yeah.
So if I said you're $5,000 in debt,
yeah,
people are going to say you're broke when you may have $5,000 in the bank as well.
Yeah.
So when they came out and said Kamala Harris is $20 million in debt, I'm wondering if that's
well. The question that I have with that is they immediately continued the fundraising. Even after the election.
For a recount. Do you see that?
Yeah, for the recount. And they immediately continued. So that's what made it suspect in my mind. Because, yeah, you might have, $4,000 or $5,000 on your credit card that needs to get paid off. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out how to make the money to pay that thing off.
Now, I don't know for sure, but I would say that the stories are probably plants to get them to fundraise. They want people to think they're hurting. They raised $1 billion in what was it, 1-point-something billion in 100 days. Yeah. So when people are saying that the money was all gone and now they're in debt, I'm like, I know they did have massive spends. You can track that stuff. But I'm telling you guys, when someone says, oh, they're in debt, and I'm like, like, I'll tell you this, I have $1 million in debt. Okay, because I have a mortgage, So it's not really $1 million mortgage. I'm saying I have all this debt. And if someone came out and said, wow, Tim's $1 million in debt, they try to make it like that. The average person goes, whoa. I must have $0. Trump has that famous story where he told, I can't remember if it was Eric or Don Jr., he pointed to a homeless guy and said, see that homeless man? He's worth more money than me. Because Trump had X amount of liabilities, but, X minus whatever in assets. But Trump's super rich. He's got penthouses, he's got cars, he's got millions and billions in the bank, but he owes more on all of his businesses. Yeah. So they come out, and this is the trick the Democrats play. They say Donald Trump filed for bankruptcy 5 times. To the average person, hearing someone filing for bankruptcy 1 time is rare and shocking. But for a guy who started 500 plus businesses, who's a billionaire, 5 bankruptcies is like, okay, some businesses often fail, and this guy's got hundreds of them, so sure, he's got bankruptcies. Yeah. But regular Democrats, when you go and talk to them, even prominent liberals, they're like, he's not a good businessman. He filed bankruptcy 5 times. And it's like, oh, which of the 500 businesses did he file bankruptcy on? What does bankruptcy mean? Does it mean the business no longer operates and there's no money? You know what really bothers me? When I was working for Fusion, we were a mile from Trump Doral. And all of these liberals and lefties who worked there were making fun of Trump, being like, whatever happened to all this business? Trump Steaks is gone. Trump Magazine, where's that? What happened to Trump Water? And they were laughing about it. And guess what? I got a room at Trump Durrell, and I had a Trump steak, and I had a Trump bottle of water, and I read Trump Magazine. And I said, you people are nuts. These are internal products that he produces for his hotels. So when you can get Trump Water today, and they're like, nope, it's out of business. You can get Trump steaks. You can't buy them on TV anymore, but they make them for the hotels.
It's the
They lie to trick people into thinking Trump's failed.
It's also the same people who are like, he's not successful because his dad loaned him $1 million. I'm like, you know that $1 billion is like way more.
Well, I've often told people, I said, okay, $1 million is 1,000 thousands, right? Yeah. So if I give you $1,000, do you know how to turn that 1,000 into $1 million? I mean, to take $1 million and turn it into $1 billion or multiple billions, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Look at the lottery winners, right? How many of them end up broke and destitute because they don't know how to use their money?
And Trump,
that has been changing.
That has?
It's been changing now because, I think it was 15 or so years ago, there was a wave of documentaries about how people won the lottery, bought golden statues of themselves. Well, that's the thing. It's like, what happens if we are you familiar with the cargo cults, World War II? We're flying planes over these islands that we've never made contact with before. These people have no idea what planes are. They build effigies begging for the planes to come back because they'd bring supplies and things like this. They thought it was like gods or whatever. So when you go to people, what would happen if aliens came down to Earth and gave one human advanced alien technology that effectively made them immortal, invincible, and they could vaporize someone by snapping their fingers? They'd go nuts. The average person would probably just go nuts and go around blowing things up, justifying everything they do. That is what happens when you give a regular person $50 million. They have no idea what to do with it. They don't know how to store value because they haven't built it up themselves. Historically, then they just waste it all. They buy golden statues of themselves, and then, good luck.
They could buy some preserved gold, like in the ad at the beginning.
I mean, real gold's great.
Yeah.
Hey,
but I don't know how you liquidate a gold statue.
Cancel the statue. Cancel the statue.
What did you win the lottery?
It was only like $12,000 on scratch offs.
Melted into bars.
Yeah. And debt is a tool, right? I mean, bankruptcy is a tool in regards to that.
David Ramsey would not agree.
He would not agree with that. Dave probably called me because I said I have a credit card. It's a business credit card, David. Just a couple of flights on it.
Well, this is the quick trick, right? So poor people and people who are working class and struggling use credit cards to make ends meet and stretch the extra mile because they're living paycheck to paycheck. Rich people have credit cards so that they can earn rewards and everything's cheaper. Right. There was a I can't remember which comedian said this. It might have been George Carlin, that if you're rich and you have money in the bank gives you more money. Yeah. They just say, here's some more. And if you're poor, the bank says, I'm sorry, you don't have enough. We're taking some of what little you have. It's a ridiculous system. Yeah. So for people who are working class and living paycheck to paycheck, they're like, we got to put it on the credit card and we're going to have to pay down the minimum. And that's going to it's going to take from our net worth. And what can we do? Rich people are like, I use my credit card because I get 1% cash back. Now that TV was cheaper. And then after 6 months, I get a couple grand in rewards and just.
But here's my thing, going back to them raising 1.3, and if they are $20 million in debt, let's say they are. If they are, and they are going to operate by a system of deficits, this is the carryover from this Green New Deal mindset of modern monetary theory, where debts and credits, debts are more significant and they're more important, and they're okay to have debts because we can keep printing money, right? And they lived in this we'll just keep printing cash if that's what we need to do. I mean, what's $100 more billion to Ukraine? If she's going to run a campaign like that, and her people are going to do that administratively, what are they going to do to the country if she'd have gotten into power? They're going to try to operate, again, by modern monetary theory. That's the way they're going to do things. And it's going to be exponentially worse. So, I mean, it is something to think about.
But I think in terms of the campaign, $20 million in debt is meaningless to me. So if I was to buy an ad in Times Square, and they can range in various, they're not it's not as expensive as people think. So I call the agent. I say, I'm going to buy the billboard because we want to advertise something. They say, okay. They send an invoice 2 weeks later. I now have $10,000 in debt. If you're running a presidential campaign, $20 million on a budget of $1 billion does not sound like that much. And if Kamala Harris went to a major TV buyer or went to, say, YouTube or a big tech platform and said, we're going to do a $50 million ad buy, we have $30 million credit in the account that we loaded, and then it goes to negative 20, it's just as simple as, okay, we'll pay you back at the end of the month. So I keep hearing this debt story, and there's no context to what any of it means. it's meaningless. They said she spent something like $500 million on a massive television campaign over a long period of time or whatever that was. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so she's spending 25 times or whatever this amount, and then all of a sudden the media is like, she's $20 million in debt. And I'm like, okay, so she writes a check and hands it to him. It doesn't mean anything.
The joke was that she spent $6 million to have the Call Her Daddy set rebuilt, and they
100,000.
Was it 100,000? They like rebuilt it wrong.
100,000.
Oh, they did.
It was like the logo was off center.
So wait. She has a set, and they paid to create a second set.
Yeah, because they like
she didn't want to fly to where it was.
She didn't want to fly to the set, so they.
When I interviewed Trump, we had a hotel room. And they just put up some curtains and some American flags. Why didn't Trump build a secondary Timcast set in D.C.?
That's actually honestly indicative of what the problem is, right? Which is that nothing is real. Like, you can't even trust your eyes anymore. Like, oh, she went to her. No, They rebuilt it. Whereas Trump's like, I'll come to you. We'll work with what we've got. There is a bullshit detector that the average everyday American has now that they can see right through this stuff.
But can I just say on that point, in the context, as you mentioned, the thing that bothers me is these are the people who were okay with the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal, when AOC was pushing that, looked like something that a 7-year-old drew on a piece of paper with a green crayon. Yeah. This was a $90 million or $90 trillion infrastructure overhaul. $90 trillion is not a real number. That's not a real number in a real economy. And this was the kind of stuff that, and we thought, okay, that's a joke. This is coming out of a bartender from the Bronx's brainless, skull. But these people, they ratified it. They thought it was a good idea. So again, they're okay with this kind of stuff. So it does scare me. I mean, if she was willing to be frivolous with that, but you're right, Tim. I mean, 20 million versus 1.3 billion is blowing. You can blow that out of your nose.
Yeah, she may just have an outstanding, like they're like 20 million in debt, and it could just be like so when you buy ads on Google,
we need an audit.
If you have an account on Google that's in good standing and you've been with them for a few years, they'll let you run a deficit for some time, especially if you have $1 billion and they know you do. So I'm not saying she did this, but if I create a campaign on Google, and we do campaigns on Google ads, I might wake up one day and see that I have $1,000 in debt, and I go, okay, and Google does not care. At the end of the month, I click pay, and then it's gone. Someone's going to come and be like, Tim Pool's $1,000 in debt. And I'm like, oh, shut up.
I mean, I think the more important part of all of that was just they spent this much money to lose that badly.
What was amazing is that Trump didn't have to spend all that money because he had organic support. Mm-hmm. And the Democrats had to pay for support that didn't do anything.
Well, he got a felony charge and 3 days later had $500 million raised.
That's right. Let's jump to this story. This is huge from Daily Mail. FBI seizes PolyMarket CEO Shane Copland's phone and computer after he predicted Trump win. Shane Copland, 26, was targeted in his Soho home during a dawn raid on Wednesday. The insider blasted the seizure as a grand political theater at its worst. They could have just asked his lawyer for any of these things. Instead, they staged a so-called raid so they can leak it to the media and use it for obvious political reasons. Copland was reportedly not arrested or given a reason for the raid, but it is thought to be linked to his accurate predictions, which outsmarted traditional polls. Yeah, it was people placing bets. Quote, "There's obviously political retribution by the outgoing administration against PolyMarket for providing a market that correctly called the 2024 election." And it did. PolyMarket was the most accurate predictor. Technically, you could say Atlas, I think Atlas Intel was, and Rasmussen nailed it. They got all the swing states. They got very close. Atlas, I think, was closer. But PolyMarket, before anybody else, predicted that Trump was going to win all the swing states and win the presidential election. And it was just based off of whether the wisdom of the crowd was right.
So it's just betting odds on that? Like, it's just, that's what people said was going to happen?
Yep.
So the FBI is like, so you asked people who was going to win. The people told you, and the people were right, not so fast.
That's right. Well, we don't know exactly why they're going after him, but the betting on these websites are illegal. And apparently people are using VPNs to try and place wagers. So perhaps they're trying to see if he knows this. He tweeted on November 8th, PolyMarket helped people go to bed early on election night, Elon Musk included. Elon Musk said, victory isn't enough. It must be an absolutely decisive victory. And everyone was sharing the picture from PolyMarket where it said Trump's chance of winning spiked to, wow, look at that. At that point, 54% to 43, 54 to 45. And then by that night, it was through the roof. Then they raided his house. So I don't know. Political retribution. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's possible that it's political retribution.
Do they really care about it? I mean, I don't know why they're doing anything right now. Trump's going to come in and be like, enough with this ridiculous BS.
I mean, I assume that Trump will come in and the goal is to, stop all of the political persecution of people that have issues with the government. This, I don't know that they have any kind of, any kind of leg to stand on. I don't know what they assume they know or what they hope to find. There aren't any accusations public aside from, that I know of. So I don't know what it is that they see.
There was a lot of speculation that the markets were being manipulated to create a public perception over who was going to win or lose. The idea was that whichever candidate is favored to win, people will support because they just want to vote for the winner. But Donald Trump was the heavy favorite and no one could get past it. And so the accusation is Trump supporters were padding the numbers to convince people that Trump was going to win so that Democrats would stay home, which I don't believe.
Well, on a betting website, the conservatives are the ones who are on the betting websites, and so they're the ones with the money who are probably putting the money on Donald Trump, which is changing the odds. Now, with something like the PolyMarket deal, I mean, is that really that much different from, say, ABC affiliates in Arizona calling the election early, or, back we saw in 2020 when they started calling the elections early?
Just call California instantly.
Just immediately. And I think,
to be fair,
I think that in some of these cases, I mean, if you really want to dig into this, I think they would love nothing more than to find a way that they can tie this to Elon Musk.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the goal. Again,
well, there have been Democrats calling on Joe Biden right now to use extra legal authority to go after all of Trump and his allies to stop him from winning.
Right.
They're talking about shutting down Elon Musk's companies, deporting him. No joke. They're saying, hey, if the Supreme Court said you're immune, just do it anyway.
To stop fascism.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing when, The View, they had this segment today where they were saying you shouldn't stay away from your families this holiday weekend or this upcoming holiday week because it's bad for you. And I'm like, Dean Withers, I think it was Dean, he said, because someone made a joke about Barron secretly having an IQ of 170 and secretly orchestrating from the shadows, he's like, you will never shake the cult accusations. And I'm like, dude, when Steve Bannon comes out and tells you to watch CNN and MSNBC, that's the opposite of what cults do. When you guys come out and say, avoid family, disavow your family, and don't talk to them, that's what cults do.
100%.
For cults to survive, they have to isolate you from anyone who could share outside information.
It's the number one way that they've othered everybody who isn't part of the Democrat establishment, right? Also, did you see that Whoopi Goldberg said that she wanted to quit The View and leave because of Trump, but she can't because she doesn't have the money?
Wait, what? For real?
I don't know how that's possible. I think I saw that her net worth was like $60 million. So I don't know what that means, but I was reading about that earlier.
Where? I want to pull that one up. Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah. She's talking about wanting to quit.
$60 million is a lean amount here. I don't know if I can live off that.
We'll pull that one up in a little bit, but we'll keep talking about PolyMarket, I guess.
I mean, that's practically a campaign debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just PolyMarket, though. Kalshi was massive this election, and all of the prediction markets, I think except PredictIt, were predicting a Donald Trump victory. So the question then becomes, how come nobody cares about PredictIt? Why raid PolyMarket and then leave these other markets untouched?
I mean, PolyMarket was the one that was getting reposted the most on Twitter. Like, that was the one that I saw consistently referenced beforehand.
And, this is one of those things, will they sweep it under the rug or will we ever find out what they find on these electronics? Well, I mean, if they find a connection to Elon Musk, I guarantee you we're going to hear it from, they'll shout it from the
I hope Trump gets into office and then just releases all the J6 files and pardons everybody immediately.
Sure.
I hope that as soon as he gets in, he says, Matt Gaetz is acting AG pending confirmation. Matt Gaetz, Trump, whatever, they start going through all the J6 files. They say pardon. And then they release all the documents pertaining to were there feds there, were there police there, what was going on.
Yeah. And I hope that happens before he pardons Hunter Biden.
He should not pardon Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden needs to win on his own merits by filing a lawsuit to the Supreme Court.
1,000% agree.
Do you know the Nick's argument on this case, why Hunter Biden needs to win? If he wins the Supreme Court, it removes the self-incrimination from the background check forms. So Hunter's charged for lying to the Fed, saying he wasn't a drug user when buying a gun, but that's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. This is an unjust prosecution. Pardoning him is a bad move. He needs to win on his own merits so that it sets precedent for the rest of us when we go to buy our weapons. But anyway, I digress. I don't know that Joe will, but What do you think the chances are that Joe steps down and Kamala Harris becomes president for a month?
Well, the worst part would be how many people have bought 45, 47 T-shirts, and now that's going to render those obsolete, right?
All the hats.
Yeah, all the
Straight
hats.
to Ross's is you're gonna have to buy them on discount.
Yeah, we had a Bricksuit here, and he had a bunch of 45, 47 hats, and I was like, if Biden steps down and gives Kamala the presidency for a month, those hats are
It's like
collector's
when
items?
it's like because they print whenever a team goes to when two teams go to the World Series, they print shirts for both, and then the ones that lose end up given to an NGO that end up in a foreign country.
There's kids in Somalia wearing New York Yankees shirts.
It's true though.
But again, historically, it's an asterisk, it's a footnote, but it doesn't change anything. It really doesn't change anything. And I know that her campaign spokesperson, or whatever the head of that part of her campaign, came out and said that that's really what he should do. He absolutely should not do that. And I think if Joe Biden has any sense, I mean, listen, they have treated this man. And listen, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden's 51, 52 years of permanent Washington trash. He peddled his own crackhead son as a scapegoat in order to funnel money from Ukraine and China. So he's trash, he's garbage. But the humanity makes me want to have a little empathy for the old guy, the way they treated him, trotting him out there the way that he did. Obviously a dementia guy, he's addle-brained. And the stuff they put him through, and for whatever it's worth, obviously the guy does love his family, he loves his son. And I look at this and the humanity of it, and I'm going, oh, the guy's trash. But they used him. I mean, a perfect example is whenever Kamala lost, who did they jump on? They jumped on not only Joe for resigning not early enough, but they jumped on George Clooney, of all people, for forcing Joe to resign.
because he wrote that op-ed.
Yeah, so they were looking for somebody to blame. So that's why I think Joe is grinning from ear to ear in the photo op today with Donald Trump.
It would be the ultimate, they just love just degrading the idea of meritocracy. To put her in there as 47, just be like one last middle finger to the idea that you should ever have any type of actual win on your own merit.
And then I saw some posts from women. Imagine never being able to be the first woman president through victory because Kamala Harris weaseled her way in for a month.
All the people who wrote posts on X saying that they should do this, all the responses were like, are you nuts? Why would you do that to everybody else who wants the opportunity?
Oh, they should totally do it. Yeah. It would ruin the legacy of the White House for women forever.
Yeah. The ultimate DEI.
Then you get 2032 President Gabbard or something, and she's not the first woman president. She wins, but people are like, "Meh, that was Kamala."
What would end up happening is if it was a conservative that actually became the first woman president,
it will be.
Say it was someone like Tulsi Gabbard, then they would say, "Oh no, she's not the first." But if it was a Democrat that became the first, they would be like, well, because they did the same thing with Grinnell. Mm-hmm. He had a position, I forget what position it was that he got appointed by Donald Trump, and he was the first gay cabinet member.
Yeah. And they said it was Pete Buttigieg later.
They said it was Pete Buttigieg.
Everyone's like, what?
Because Grinnell got appointed by Trump halfway through his acting or whatever. I don't remember the specific details, but it would be the same thing. If a conservative got it, then they would give credit to Harris. If it was not a conservative, then they would say, "Oh well, she didn't really matter. It was the."
It's so funny because Hollywood is an arm of the Democrat Party now, anyways, and they love to do any type of story about the first this to do this,
but not for long.
No,
not for long. Let's jump to the story from the New York Post. Whoopi Goldberg admits she'd leave The View if she had more money. I work for a living.
What the heck is she spending her money on?
Yeah, seriously.
She probably is too big.
I got to be honest. Butter costs $7.50. It's got to be rough.
She bought that gold statue.
They better start getting known, particularly in the swing states, in addition to the primary states.
I'm sorry. When you have one candidate who has been running for 12 years, who lies and changes things. I appreciate that people are having a hard time. Me too. Yeah. I work for a living. If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here.
Her salary, according to Brave, is $8 million a year.
Yeah, she's like a net worth. Granted, those net worth trackers are often unreliable, but $60 million.
They're completely wrong. Yeah. The net worth trackers said Ian Crossland's net worth was $5 million.
Some of that Ian Crossland money.
If she's hold on. It might be right.
Okay.
I don't know. Like Ian's got he's got his hand in a bunch of tech businesses.
So what
and
you're
stuff.
saying, I should ask him for a loan.
But if you don't know, they don't know.
The fact that I was able to Google search Ian Crossland net worth at all, I was like, this is interesting. I was like, hey, Ian, it says your net worth $5 million. And he just looked at me and went, oh. And I'm like, has Ian got something going on? I mean, he's founded tech companies. Ian might, who knows?
I mean, he had something to do with the creation of
He's
Minds.
one of the co-founders of Minds.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think Minds tokens are traded on some exchanges, and that means if they're traded on the exchanges, even if they're worth very little, and he's got a boatload of them, it could be,
When you go long on graphene in 2010.
Hey, a few years ago, as soon as Ian started screaming about graphene, I bought stock in a company that produces it, and I made a ton of money.
I'm telling you right now, that's where he made his money.
Anyway, back to Whoopi Goldberg, who gets reportedly, what's her salary? You said it was $8 million?
Yeah, it says that with The View, she makes $8 million, and that's just what she does on The View.
Yeah. She's got royalties too. Oh, this is The Independent. They say that in 2016, her one-year contract was estimated to be worth $5 to $6 million. That's The Independent reporting. This is not some net worth website. So she's like, if I had all the money in the world, I wouldn't be here right now. Are you kidding?
Yeah, that little statement she made, I work for a living, that is like Kamala saying she's from a middle class family.
Well, look, I don't have a problem with her saying that she works for a living. She has to get up and go to her job every day. But the lack of understanding of what the average everyday person does with their life is shocking.
Well, it shows you that they don't understand there's no self-awareness.
No.
When you look at the inflation, the people that can't afford gas and eggs, they got to choose between, groceries or fuel. When 31% of your annual income is going to pay your mortgage, she has no point of relevance or to be able to equate anything with that. She can't relate to the real world.
So this triggered a backlash. We had this from Newsweek after she said she's got financial problems. Said, I work for a living. I appreciate that people are having a hard time too. If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here. People got really pissed off because they're like, dude, in 2016, Variety reported that she was making $5 to $6 million. And her net worth is estimated to be $60 million. I don't know if that's true, but she's certainly not poor being the host of a TV show that gets millions of views. That's true. And she has the nerve to say, I work for a living. Meanwhile, there's some dude in a sewer right now getting $30 an hour to pull dead rats out of pipes to get the sewage flowing again. And he's listening to Whoopi Goldberg being like, I have it so hard. It's just so hard for me. You know what? I talked about this last week because Joe Scarborough was talking on Morning Joe, and he was like, I had a friend call me and said that Trump's going to win. I said, why? And he goes, butter's $3. And I was thinking to myself, like, what? But I said, oh, good point. And then Micah goes, it's $7. And then he goes, what? Micah goes, it's $7 for butter. And then Joe goes, what, is it framed in gold? Guess how much butter costs here, where we are? $7.50. Yeah. You want to get a 4-pack of Lando Lakes for your family, it's $7.50. I was surprised. I pulled up a New York supermarket to see because I think they're in New York. It's $5.50 for the generic brand. The generic brand out here, same price. It's about $5.30, $5.50. And Lando Lakes, the name brand, $7.50. So when he says, was it framed in gold? That's exactly what the plumber is thinking when he goes to the grocery store to buy food for his family, and he looks in the fridge and sees Lando Lake $7.50. He thinks to himself, is this golden butter? Why is it $7? The only difference is Joe Scarborough is so out of touch. He probably doesn't buy his own groceries. No. He's got someone doing it for him, so he doesn't even know. He doesn't care.
Mika.
It's worth millions. That's right. That's how she knows.
They're married. It's Mika that does the.
She's not buying food, dude. They've got an assistant who's going to pick up groceries. They make a list and say, pick this stuff up for us. So when I get home, I can have my $15 ice cream like Nancy Pelosi did. Remember during the lockdown when Nancy Pelosi was like, I've got all of this $50,000 or $15 ice cream. And then she opens her freezer and everyone's like, she's got Jenny's? Well, yeah, she's worth $200 million. What do you think? You think getting to Congress keeps you poor? These people are ripping you off every single day. And Whoopi Goldberg's another person saying, I wouldn't be here. Dude, the only reason I'm here right now is guilt and obligation duty. Because you get to a point, you make a lot of money, ain't nobody's pulling a fast on working class people that when you make millions of dollars, you're forced to be somewhere. Now, unlike Whoopi Goldberg, this is the stupidest thing in the world a person in her position could say. Me, I'll tell you why I do this, why I'm here every day. I genuinely fear what happens to this country if we aren't on top of things. And I'm watching the weaponization of the legal system. I'm watching lockdowns where they're forcing people in their homes. And I'm thinking, what can I do? I got to do the best that I can. So we host this show. Whoopi Goldberg's like, I don't want to be here. I just need money. Yeah. Imagine what that means to everybody watching that show when she comes out and tells you, Orange man bad, don't vote for Trump. By the way, I don't actually care. I just want money. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So her opinion's bought and paid for. She's there for ratings. She's there for the clicks, the views, and she's there for whatever. I mean, I don't know who watches The View, but obviously a lot of people do. And they're there literally for the money.
She's been there since like 2007, so...
Yeah, which again goes back to the significance of if Kamala was paying these people to endorse her, you can't trust her opinion or their opinion because she's a puppet on a string. She was literally buying friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's also true that, look, I don't think you should trust any celebrity endorsement of any politician. I think you should vote for if you do choose to vote, you should do so based on your own research and the merits of that person. And I think for the most part, I kind of cringe no matter who it is endorsing any politician because I'm just not a fan. But if you're going to dare to trust a celebrity, there is more to be lost from being a celebrity endorsing any right-wing politician than there is left. Most of the time, in that case, it's people who are worth a lot of money advocating for you to vote for somebody who's going to have you make even less money. If you're, on the left, somebody worth a lot of money is going to tell you to vote for policies that will actually empty your bank account faster. And that's kind of shocking to me that people still fall for it.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, this year, I guess, is kind of a rebuke of that because they spent more money on, or maybe not spent more money, but they went harder on celebrity endorsements than they have in a very, very long time. And a lot of that goes back to Obama. We know that he was the darling of the media for the entirety of his 8 years. And if you were to look at any Hollywood production, whether it's The View or anything there, it showed you a very different world than what the one you were actually living in. So you have to make up your mind on your own, and you can't let these people make that decision for you.
I said back then, Obama wasn't interested in being a politician. He wanted to be a celebrity.
It was the first inclination that I had before I had any type of political inclination or understanding whatsoever. I just remember being at home visiting my dad, and he was on like Letterman, and it was like 2 nights in a row with 2 different shows. I'm like, doesn't he have stuff to do?
Yeah.
Isn't he busy?
For me, I forget what it was that was going on in the world, but it was something significant that diplomatically he should have been meeting with somebody, and Shakira was the guest at the Oval Office today.
Good grief.
I was just like, isn't he busy? Doesn't he have other things to do rather than be on late night TV?
But I think Kamala...
No.
And I think
the blob runs things.
See, I think he was that way. I think Joe wound up with the presidency because Joe had just been on the board of the country club for so long. It was finally his turn to be the president. But I think Kamala was the fruit off of the same tree. She was more interested in being a celebrity. So I'm going to ask you guys, like, MSNBC isn't going to be giving Kamala a job as a person giving commentary anytime soon, right? So she's not going to be a Jen Psaki making $20 million a year doing that.
Politically, $20 million.
I think she gets quite a bit. You can double check me on that, but she gets quite a bit. I think she signed a fat ass contract.
They should give her a sketch comedy show.
But I mean, Kamala. I literally see Kamala at some point in time having like a cooking show or something like that.
Yeah, cooking with Kamala.
Because politically, she's dead in the water. I mean, she's never won anything.
Yeah.
The speculation is $5 million a year contract, which makes sense. Caitlin Collins gets $3 million from CNN, which is insane. She got a good agent because she does not have talent.
But do you remember when George W. Bush, his speaking fees were like $406,000 a speech, and George W. Bush wasn't a great speaker.
Remember when Hillary Clinton gave a speech to Goldman Sachs for several $100,000 right before announcing she was running?
Yeah.
We love how the game is played, don't we, folks? It's good fun.
But they're not going to pay Kamala for that. They're not going to pay her those amounts to come out and give a keynote speech anywhere.
She can't actually give the speech.
She'll
giggle every 3 seconds.
She's going to talk.
The words won't actually.
Well, hold
make
on.
sense.
Now imagine this. What if we booked Kamala, Trump supporters, to just get wine drunk and gag and just babble on stage for everybody? We could probably charge $300 and people would love it.
Yeah.
She just goes up there and she's just drunk out of her mind, talking in circles, and everyone's laughing.
Be like the jester. Everybody throws Rotten Tomatoes at her.
Well, we don't want to do that. We want to sit back and
we do. But I don't know how long she'll keep showing up. But then she'd be like Whoopi. she'd be like Whoopi. She'd be like, I don't want to be doing this job, but I got to work. I got to make money.
Yeah. If you get like a Shane Gillis Trump impersonation, making fun of Kamala, and then she just sits in a chair, and then everyone pays for the tickets, that'd be a fun show, huh? Fun for everybody. All right, everybody. We're going to jump to Super Chats, so if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, share the show with everybody you know. Become a member over at Timcast.com to join the movement, join our Discord server where like-minded people are hanging out. There's meetups, there's pre-shows, there's after-shows, and you will get access to our uncensored members-only show coming up just about a half an hour where you as members can call in and talk to us and our guest. Let's go. We got Mad Max. He says our side needs to stop telling their side why they lost and how to fix it. Let them drown in their arrogance and stupidity. Well, I don't know that I completely agree. The Democrats are in a position where the party is being split in two. The younger portion of the party will not align with the moderate pro-Israel side of the neo-libs. And so that's it. The old guard Democrats are going to lose out. And for the next 8 to 12 years, I don't know how Democrats pull out of this one. If so there was that clip you were sharing, Phil, with where Destiny was talking to a guy who said, we got to go pro 2A. Democrats have to be pro-gun. Yeah, if you do that, you're going to lose all the moderate libs. Yep. They're going to be like, no, guns are bad. And that's a more leftist approach. Leftists like guns. If you go woke, then the moderates leave. If you abandon the woke and call them out, then the woke leave. Your party's done. I don't see a path to victory for these people. There has to be a total reformation of the party, which could take 10 plus years.
And it's that rigid conformity that they enforce that makes it a problem for them. Because you can't, you have to toe the line on every, you have to toe the line on every issue. Yep. Which is why it's funny that they said Trump's surrounding himself with yes men. I'm like, you guys are literally the yes men.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to say no.
Walter P says Brandon Herrera for director of ATF.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. But I don't think any amount of memeing will make any of these online personalities cabinet members. So,
well, I mean, that's the director of the ATF isn't a cabinet position. It's just a bureaucrat.
Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, wow, just wow. Matt as AG is too good to be true. It is too good to be true. I'm very worried about the deep state and their plans. Glenn Greenwald tweeted at me saying there's no way Republicans are going to allow that confirmation. I'm like, I agree, but I think worse, there's no way the deep state is going to allow those
and do you find, or is it just, tell me what you guys are hearing. Like, I know that the crazy wild-eyed Riris, they're marching in the streets like by the thousands. They're having their protests, and that's going to get increasingly worse before the inauguration. But doesn't it seem like the left and the deep state seems to be a little too silent on some of this stuff right now? But
it could be that they're fleeing. So you look at 2016 and 2020, and it was pronounced. It might actually be, I think it was McCabe was saying on some show that federal agents were planning to flee the country if Trump wins. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, you're going to get people. Let's talk about it this way. 10 years ago, all the woke stuff dominated, and Trump supporters were the silent majority. They refused to speak up. They were scared they were going to lose their jobs, so they did nothing. That's inverted. With Bud Light, with Target, with these massive cultural victories, with Disney losing $1 billion, the public started to realize that woke is broke. The Democrats couldn't abandon it. But now, with the popular vote going for Trump, I think we're seeing the inverse. Mm-hmm. Leftist, authoritarian, and liberal types are like, I better keep my head down and shut up, because if I come out in support of these people, I'm going to lose everything. People do not like this. So why are they quiet? For the same reason Trump supporters were quiet 10 years ago. They feel like they're in the minority in a losing position, and they're putting themselves at risk. They want to keep their heads down.
That's why I thought it was a big deal when Jeff Bezos congratulated Trump on,
it was a hearty congratulations.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking to me.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of, not just, newspapers, but Amazon Prime, all of those things that make him a lot of money. That was a big deal to make that statement. Botanical Garden says recess appointments. He's in. Cash for head of FBI. Thomas Massey said Gaetz is confirmed because of recess appointments. Oh,
Thomas Massey, that was pretty. He said something along the lines of cry about it too. It was like,
wow.
Yeah, as he was headed up the escalator there.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. I am. Look, Matt Gaetz is absolutely fantastic. There's rumors going around that Kash Patel has been named to head of FBI director. I've not seen any confirmations on this. So I hope someone knows something that I don't, but I do not believe there's any confirmation for now. And I'm not going to say too much other than let's just keep our fingers crossed, and we'll grab some more super chats. All right. Powder PZ says Trump is naming Gaetz and Gabbard as the heads of the departments that were weaponized against them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Beautiful thing.
All right. Jordan Green says, tomorrow I am taking my best friend to embark on his final journey into the unknown. Finn, full name Thorfinn Skullsplitter. I still can't believe Meg agreed to name him that. Cheers to the best dog that's ever been, even if he is kind of an a-hole. I know how you feel, man. Mr. Bokus would pee on literally everything.
Yes.
Yes, he would. And we loved him anyway, despite him being a little jerk. And even in his final days, he still peed on everything. Although I'll cut him some slack because towards the end when his kidneys were failing, I don't think it was so much of a choice as it was in the past. But you know what? Actually, it's kind of sad because the question that came up is we didn't realize this until way late that he had defective kidneys. And so So we knew he pissed all over everything.
We thought he just hated us, but
And
really
then people were like, do you think maybe it was because since he was a kitten, he had defective kidneys, and so he just, when he went? And I'm like, maybe that was it. He wasn't intentionally coming in the room and just pissing on the floor. His kidneys were just bad.
Now we've got guilt.
Now we've got guilt. But, you know, I still kind of think he was being a dick because he in the corner. But yeah,
I feel like that's what cats do.
I mean, Seamus doesn't.
Seamus 2.
Seamus 1, you mean?
Seamus 2.
Seamus 1 is our cat. Seamus 2 is the cartoonist. There's another cat out here, a wild cat. And Allison is like, absolutely not. We will not get another cat. And I was like, Richie, Seamus 3. Yeah. And Richie's like, we have to get him. Allison's like, no more cats. But it's like a wild cat running around. Yeah. We just got to put some food down, get a little trap, catch him. That's what we did to Seamus. He was in the garage. So I propped the door up. He went in at night to sleep, and I closed the door, and we caught him. Then we put a trap in the middle of the garage with food in it. He went in. We got him. And then we brought him in. We deloused him. I'm kidding. We didn't really. We just sprayed him with water, and he was miserable. We gave him Stockholm Syndrome. Now he sleeps on our floor.
We're catching pets.
That's how you do it. He's a cat. We got his shots. He got tested. He got everything taken care of. Chopped his balls off. Good to go.
Town we live in, there's just whole alleys that are just full of cats because the church on the corner, the lady who runs it, she runs basically a rescue program where she leaves food out for all of them. So you just go through those whole alleys just full of cats.
Do you hear the moaning every night from the cats?
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Seamus had a sister because when he was less than a year old when we caught him, but there were other cats yelling every night. And I'm like, I bet, he was a cat, gave birth. The kittens grew up and started wandering around. We caught one of them. The rest, who knows?
Well, there's also there's neighborhood cats that they have a home, but they're just allowed to be out, and everybody in the neighborhood knows the cat. It's Bucket and Dusty, and they just they hang out at the local businesses, and somebody's out there sweeping out on the patio. They're like, "Oh, Bucket, how's it going?"
Oh yeah. And I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to put any cat security at risk. But there's one shop where we know the owner, and when they open the door to let air in, the cat walks in and just hangs out, and they're like, "Yep." Yeah. Cat just hangs out.
Years ago, I had 2 barn cats. They were named Fat Baby and Not So Fat Baby. And Fat Baby and Not So Fat Baby started having babies. And next thing I know, I had 23 feral cats.
Oh, my God.
But we didn't have a rat problem. We didn't have a mouse problem at all.
Yeah. But the issue with cats is that they sometimes let the mice live. Yeah.
Play with them.
Right. So Mr. Bocus and Seamus, no, not Seamus. We had another cat. I forgot what his name is. I called him Herman. And Herman was older, and Mr. Bocus was, so the one cat was laying down with a crippled mouse, and Mr. Bocus came up, and the cat let Mr. Bocus do his thing, and the mouse would get up and start crawling, and then he would just take his hand and go wham and just smack it,
Slap him.
and then it would just be stunned on the ground, desperately breathing, and it was miserable. So Allison and I, we got a stick, and I put it, and the mouse grabbed onto it, and I lifted him up, and he was hanging from one hand with his eyes closed, panting, and Bocus went nuts, started yelling at me, and then I put the mouse in the bushes, and he survived, and then Bocus was pissed.
You really just described my first marriage.
All right, let's grab some more. We've got The Last of My Kind says, thousands of Houston firefighters marched downtown in honor of Marcelo Ox Garcia III, a firefighter that died in the line of duty last week. Prayers for his family and thank you to the firefighters that came from Dallas and Detroit to man the stations during the procession. Wow, that is epic. Sad to hear, but it's also very nice to hear that the other firefighters came down to assist. That's very cool. All right. This is the account you are looking for, says, thank you, Tim. As a Mississippian, I have been trying to get Roger Wicker out for years now. Remove these monsters. Well, hopefully Trump can start cleaning the swamp out. He's not going to drain the swamp. The swamp's been drained. But what people don't understand is he took the water out, but the monsters were still there. So this is the new analogy everyone's using. At first, Trump's like, I'm going to drain the swamp. And everybody was like, he's going to fire everybody. Then he didn't. So they started saying, well, he exposed who they were. So he drained the water, and now they're all standing there. Now he's got to escort them off the property and then clean things up. I'd like to make it professional and academic. Donald Trump must escort out the deep state and tell them they're not welcome here anymore. We can do this by putting them in jail when they've committed crimes. That would be great. Here's a good one. Jason Hutchinson says, be offended, Matt Gaetz. So what's really funny is that when Donald Trump nominates Matt Gaetz, the left and the right both started sharing the same clip The left saying, this is who Donald Trump has just nominated. The right saying, this is who Donald Trump has just nominated. And it's Matt Gaetz going, why is it that all the women that want abortion are the ones that are so ugly they're never going to need them? Something like that. And there's a reporter being like, are you implying that all of the women who are in favor of abortions are ugly? He's like, yes. And then they're like, what do you say to women that are offended by that? And he goes, be offended. It's just so good.
Yep.
These are the same girls that are withholding sex until 2028.
But the funny thing about it is the left and the right shared in the exact same way, the same things, but one's like, I'm mad, and one's like, I'm happy. It's hilarious. All right. Misfit Brad says Trump is hitting them right in the political nepotism. It feels surreal. It almost feels like fantasizing about winning the lotto and how it would change your life. Trump is picking off roster, and I am here for it. I mean, Pete Hegseth is great. I was shocked when they announced Pete Hegseth because he was not on my radar
at all.
But you know why he's the best choice? First, obviously, his criticism of wokeness in the military. You need someone who's not connected to the machine military-industrial complex state. You need someone who's going to back the Trump agenda, who wants to de-wokeify the military. But there's one really important thing. The left is saying, Lloyd Austin's a 4-star general, and he served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and this is real experience. And Pete Hegseth, sure, he was in the Army, but he does not have the experience. And I'm like, good. Because Donald Trump was famous for sitting down with the military generals, and then he'd say, what's going on? They'd talk. Then he would turn to the infantrymen and be like, what do you guys think? And the general's like, well, how dare you? I'm in charge here. But Trump was like, I need to know what they're seeing on the ground. I want to know what they think. People don't want to admit on the left, but this is what makes Trump successful in business and a good boss. And it's like I say, he knows how to make you feel important. When you meet Trump, he makes you feel important.
Yes, he does.
So when he's sitting down with the troops and they lie and claim that he called them suckers and loser, which he never did, it's a fake story. Why would Trump? That's just the stupidest thing I ever heard. He sits down with the troops, the enlisted or otherwise, and he makes them feel like the most important people in the world. The establishment political elites and the political military elites do not like that. So he chooses Pete Hegseth, who's not one of these Raytheon military-industrial complex guys, not one of these ass-kissers, and they lose their minds over it. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. And let's remind everybody, Lloyd Austin disappeared in January for 4 days, and nobody knew where he was. His assistant deputy SecDef was on vacation in the Caribbean, and Joe Biden didn't even have a clue where he was either. The guy's in a hospital with prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to criticize a guy for his service, and everyone you're like, oh yeah, by all means, Lloyd Austin, his service, it's impressive. It's more than I've ever done, and I've done nothing. So you come at me and you're like, you enlisted for 4 years, you left. You're golden as far as I'm concerned. I'll criticize him for not showing up to work and not telling anybody.
Right.
Anybody should be criticized for that. All right, let's go. We got Mike.
Actually, Whoopi.
Yeah. Mike Jameson says Trump can do better. Get Alex Jones for press secretary. I second this, but it's not going to happen.
Can you imagine?
I mean, look, Matt Gaetz for AG. I'm like, maybe. Yeah. Maybe he will be like, look, the press secretary job is a fake job anyway. Okay, it used to make sense, but now we have the internet, and Trump doesn't need a press secretary. He can just go on Twitter, he can go on X, and he can just post what he wants to post, and his people can post what they want to post. What do you need a press secretary for? All that Karine Jean-Pierre and Jen Psaki did was lie.
Yeah, right.
You ask a question, and they're like, I'm here to lie to you. So why bother asking? We know half the stuff anyway. This is an opportunity for Trump to do the funniest thing ever. We don't need a press secretary, so just send in Alex Jones, and you give him a mandate. Alex, your job is not to answer questions. It's to humiliate the journalists for their lies every chance you get. So what I expect to see is a journalist from like the New York Times. Oh, no, let's do this. My favorite one. A Politico reporter raises his hand, and then Alex goes, oh, yeah, Rick from Politico. And they go, the president recently said that he was entering negotiations with Russia to discuss the land that was taken in the Ukraine war. Does this mean he's going to seek to have land restored? And then Alex Jones should go, oh, did you know that Politico ran a story that claimed that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 election to help Hillary Clinton win the election? And then a few years later, Politico claimed in another story that same story they wrote was Russian disinformation. I didn't know that. My question was, I don't care what your question was. Yeah. I'm just going to pull up a binder of every time the fake news lied and just throw it in your face. Because we don't need a press secretary.
We don't need one. I mean, you remember the void we all felt whenever Trump got off of Twitter? I used to wake up every day like a kid on Christmas morning, like Trump. I could just envision
Get
Trump.
Covivi again?
Let's talk about that, Phil, because, I could just picture Trump 3:30 in the morning, freshly spray painted orange, whites around his eyes, bikini line, sitting on the toilet in the West Wing of the White House and like, Melania, I'm going to tweet it. It's going to be fabulous. Come look at it. Look at your phone. You're going to see it pop up. And he would tweet something, and every morning we would wake up with expectation. Like 7 years later, we're still talking about Covfefe, and everybody on the conservative side was like, "Oh dear God, the president's sending us a message. Wait, get out your little orphan Annie decoder ring." Well,
so what I imagine actually happened is almost identical. He accidentally tweeted Covfefe. What I think happened was he said, despite the negative press Covfefe. I think what he was trying to write was despite the negative press coverage.
Yeah.
And then sausage fingered the
his
send
Adderall wore off, and he fell asleep with his finger on the keyboard.
He sausage fingered it. And then it got sent. And then when everyone went wild, he then tweeted something like, "What does it mean? No one will ever know." But he goes, "Hey, Barron, come here. Barron, I want to show you this thing." And then Barron walks in. He's like, "Yeah, Dad." He's like, "Take a look." And then he tweets. I bet how many times do you think Trump shouts to Barron like, "Hey, check this out," and shows him the tweet he's posting, and Barron just laughing?
Dude, and then what, 12 days later, they passed the Covfefe Act through Congress, which I'm like, when they can take your typo and make it into legislation. But how many times, like when he did, the funniest thing he did was when he went after Mark Cuban a week ago, and he said, "The slow clubhead speed." You remember that tweet when he goes, he's unattractive inside and out. He's got no clubhead speed. I mean, like only Trump.
Oh,
it was hilarious.
One of the best moments of the entire political cycle was when he was debating Joe Biden, and Biden said he had a 6 handicap, and Trump, it was Dave Portnoy said Trump nearly fell off the stage. Like, of all the things Biden said, Trump's like, no, that one's not true. But then as soon as he goes, "I've got a 6 handicap," Trump's like, "Whoa, are you kidding me?" And then Trump's like, "You do not. That is not true." And it's like, maybe an 8.
Yeah,
I was like, "No way."
I've seen you swing, Joe.
Yeah, I've seen your swing, Joe. The most offensive thing Joe could have said was that he was better at golf than he was.
Which, honestly, I mean, that's what got under his skin with the Kamala debate. Is she got personal? People are leaving the rally. I always say this was the tale of 2 debates, right? You had the Joe debate July 27th. That was the first Star Wars. He blew up the Death Star. Joe's out. Then Empire Struck Back. Kamala got personal, and it got under Trump's skin. And then the J.D. Vance debate, where he accidentally is looking at the clock and giving that kind of that sheepish look that he was doing, which kind of turned the whole thing over. And then he just owned Tim Walz, which I think, in my opinion, I think that debate pushed the whole thing over the top.
All right, we got this from Connor Sub. Says Tim Pool for press secretary. Never. And I will say this, too. I'll take the opportunity to say Tucker Carlson will not be press secretary.
Kerry Lake could do it.
Kerry Lake could. And the reason why Tucker can't is that Tucker runs a massive multi-million-dollar business with several employees. Yeah. He's not going to shut his business down and fire his staff so that he can be press secretary. Yep. Kerry Lake, I don't know if she's going to try and challenge this, but she's losing the Senate.
She's got some free time.
So from there, actually, yeah, that's a great position for her. She knows the press. It's what she did for a living. And it's an opportunity to turn this loss into a victory.
And she's a bulldog.
Yeah. I think it'd be great.
And she'd keep her shirt on, which Alex Jones wouldn't.
Yes, but I mean,
is that
Alex
really
Jones, press secretary, where he yells at someone, they yell at him, and then he rips his shirt off, might be very fun.
Yeah, is it really bad that he takes off his shirt?
You're sitting here by the Chi-Coms.
In all seriousness, though, I've heard people say no more corporate press credentials for the press secretary, for the press briefings. They should give all the credentials to independent media.
Well, they're talking about giving it to War Room.
Yeah, well, they absolutely. But I say New York Times, WAPO, MSNBC, whatever, CNN. No, sorry, you're not welcome.
Yeah.
You can go to the back of the room, the same as you do to every other news outlet, and then we're going to bring to the front new media.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's going to have to hire a correspondent.
Which, I mean,
I'm Rick. I'm with the Joe Rogan Experience, and I have questions for you.
And while we're talking about that, I mean, Peter Doocy could do the job as well. I mean, that would be an interesting flip, go from Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, their arch nemesis of Peter Doocy. And now...
Yeah, hold on. If you had someone from Joe Rogan, it would have to be someone as well as Jamie. So that way when they go and they ask the question and they ask, you'd be like, Jamie, can you pull that up?
It's literally just Joe sitting in the press briefing. And he's like, Trump, you're going to negotiate with Russia. And, is he going to do this? And they're like, well, actually, Trump said this. And he goes, Jamie, pull that up.
Pull that up.
It would have to be.
You see how big the rocks are on these pyramids?
Every day he shows up and asks if they're going to declassify anything about aliens, and that's his question every day.
Every day. Yeah. All right, let's go. A Plus Mobility says, hey, Tim, can you give A Plus Mobility a shout out for being Kenosha, Wisconsin's newest and greatest medical mobility store? We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary this Friday, November the 15th. Congratulations. It's always great to hear new small businesses are thriving. And I hope the people of Kenosha go and get their mobility devices. Is that what you'd call them, I guess, from your store? Thanks for super chatting. Let's go. All right, what is this? Illuminati says, Hegseth served honorably in the GWOT, a platoon leader, counterinsurgency instructor, 2 times Bronze Star, an Army awardee, a brilliant communicator who will restore integrity to our armed forces after an embarrassing 4 years of Raytheon Darth Vader. I'm down for it. And, like a lot of people on the left, they're saying Trump is just choosing loyalists. And I'm like, and I do not want a quiet coup. Yeah. I don't want... Look, right now, there's an article, Raw Story, and I think Washington Post have it, where they're saying that staff at the DOJ are quietly saying they will not quit. They're going to stay and obstruct Donald Trump. They are saying intentionally, we will disrupt the popular mandate. Okay.
Then fire them.
Every single one. But the problem is, how do you know who? So you'd have to literally fire and churn out every single person.
That is A-okay by me.
Yeah.
But the real challenge is that it's very hard to do. So it's not easy to just fire bureaucrats. That's why Trump had Schedule F. They needed to make it harder. But there are options. So my pitch was Trump should set up a DOJ office in Unalaska. You guys know where that is? A town in the Aleutians. Now, to many people, that'd probably be a punishment. To me, I mean, I'd be really excited for that, to be honest. If I was working for some company and they were like, we're going to send you to the far reaches, to the Aleutian Islands, very few people, I'd be like, dude, this sounds like an adventure, man. I'm super excited for this. This is great. Most DOJ people who are trying to obstruct Trump are not going to be happy with being sent to the Aleutian Islands, Yeah. And so they'll probably quit and say, nah, I don't want to move, 8,000 miles away. Yeah. So there's options. You can go work in Alaska. And then the Alaskans are like, no, don't send them here. We don't want them. Let's grab some more super chats. All right. Sparky says, these robot dogs are pretty cool looking. Robot humans, not so much because of the uncanny valley. Did you see the video where they put the machine guns on the dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Because, Black Mirror made that episode where the robot dogs went around hunting people. Mm-hmm. And now they're building robot dogs that can kill people. I'm not a fan.
You can mount them.
You know what's going to be crazy, though, in all seriousness? War will be fought by a bunch of drones on a battlefield. It's going to come to a point where the U.S. is going to say, a robot dog with a gun, $35,000. An enlisted soldier that we have to train, million plus. And then if they lose their life, the payouts,
health benefits.
Let's just buy 15 of these robot dogs and let them loose in this city to deal with it. And the robot dogs will just swarm the city and the insurgents, the terrorists, the enemy combatants. They can't deal with mass produced. And here's the crazy thing too, what we're seeing in Ukraine with the aerial drones carrying grenades.
Yeah.
Warfare is about to, human warfare is going to end. And you're literally going to have Russia and Ukraine just sending 50,000 drones at each other. Yeah. Little micro drones carrying bombs. It's going to be weird.
And you just start by naming the cartels the narco-terrorists, transnational narco-terrorists, and you just try it out with them. Just war game it.
I mean, these people, it's crazy how dangerous our own border is. And you hear that in Juarez and in these border towns, that the United States military and National Guard tolerate that we have transnational gangs that murder and flay people alive. So, if Trump, I don't know, some people have said that he should get the National Guard. That's what we should be dealing with. I'll tell you this. The first thing we should do, any amount of money being sent to Ukraine, should be to securing our border in whatever way we have to do it. And, Trump was playing nice. He said build a wall.
Yeah.
So why don't we just invest in what Trump ended up building was triple layered bollard fencing with razor wire. And we'll go with that route. Yeah. One big wall ain't going to cut it. But we don't want conflict. We don't want crisis. We want security. So I say build the bollard fencing, increase security, cameras, drones, and all that stuff. And we don't got to worry about the conflict. Let Mexico deal with their border problem. All right, let's grab, we got time for a couple more. Kenny Cabs says, any chance that you and others buy MSNBC and bring your show to the mainstream? There's no reason to buy MSNBC. Their audience is gone. They got 61,000 viewers in the key demo on Friday. 61,000. I could make a video tomorrow literally just talking about breakfast. Like, I'm not kidding. If I made a video tomorrow and I said, here's what I had for breakfast and here's how I made it and talked for 10 minutes, I'd get more than 60,000 views.
You got 62,000 in the live chat right now.
Just live. But to be fair, primetime show, I think we had 78,000 for the night. At the peak, we'll end up with a couple million. I think 3.5 is our average unique viewership for the whole show and clips. And that's all key demo.
Yeah.
It's like 3.1 will be key demo. And then MSNBC gets 61,000. My point is they're trying. If I made a video tomorrow, I turned the camera on and said, I made a goat cheese omelet again today. That's what I have for breakfast every day. I'm going to explain to you how I did it. 61,000 people would watch, they'd comment, and that would beat MSNBC.
And key demo being as important as it is, that's becoming increasingly difficult for terrestrial networks to pull off, right? Because the audience is getting older with every passing year.
MSNBC.
You're not in the 18 to 49 anymore. They're getting in the 60s and 70s.
MSNBC can't exist. Yeah. The reason why they're so political is because that's where their value lies. MSNBC, Fox, and CNN, their viewership is 60 to, I think it's 70 plus right now.
Yeah.
That's one of the most powerful voting blocks. Older people vote more than anybody else. So right now they can make money by doing election ads to a powerful voting block. 10 more years, the average life expectancy, these networks.
Yeah.
I don't even, it's not even 10 years. MSNBC they're trying to sell it off. That's the rumor, because they can't make money right now to sustain it. It's not about their average audience being 70. It's that their average audience it's hard to market to them because you turn on MSNBC and you're getting hearing aid commercials and life insurance.
And the ad rates for those for that demo is way lower. Yeah.
And so what's happening now is a combination of low ad rates and a declining viewership based on people passing on. It's an exponential collapse. It will not be that one day there will be no more old people, so the channel doesn't exist. It'll be that the amount of old people required for the channel to exist will cross that line, and they shut down completely. So that's it. That's why CNN's saying they're going to be firing everybody. But my friends, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member at timcast.com right now, because that members-only show is coming up in about 1 minute. You don't want to miss it. You can follow me on Instagram and Instagram and X at Timcast. Chad, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I got a new song out with Bass Records called Watered Down. It debuted on the country charts at 19. John Rich jumps on that song with me, singing in the chorus, Watered Down. Encourage everybody to go get it. ChadPrather.com. Catch me out on the road doing live comedy.
Guys, go check out Pop Culture Crisis. Me and Mary are live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube. Phil will be there tomorrow.
Yes, sir. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. You can subscribe to me, and I follow back all my subscribers. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can check out our new video for the song called Forever Cold on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, Deezer. I think that's all of them.
The internet.
Yeah, the internet. Don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
All right, everybody. We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.